are on the air, so I'm going to start the meeting while you're still signing in there, so I appreciate that you've taken the time to do that. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have the roll call. So if everybody please stand. Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight, we ask your blessing on the meeting. Give us the wisdom to make the good decisions for our city. We ask a blessing on everyone who's come out tonight for their opinions. We appreciate their involvement in our city. We ask a blessing for our staff for the job they do putting all of this together for us. A blessing on our first responders, those people who keep us safe. Please, Lord, keep them safe. And as always, our military, wherever they are in the world, keep them safe and bring them home to us. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And Madam Clerk, if we could get a roll call.
Chair Keller.
Here.
Vice Chair Williams.
Here.
Member Millen.
Here.
Member Wunderlich.
Here.
Member Bernstein is absent, unexcused. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, our first item on the agenda is the consent agenda for the minutes of the planning meeting from February 12th. And we'll now take up the consent agenda. Is there any corrections or additions, or can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda from last meeting.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Member Mellon, a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? Okay. So that passes. There is no old business, so that gets us to the new business. And the first one that we have on the sheet for tonight is a dog-friendly restaurants. So we'll turn this over to Administrator Corliss.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Tonight I have the actually fun opportunity to talk about dog-friendly restaurants, and I think it's interesting coming into the time, some background on that. When you take a look at some of the shift in the American way of life, so to speak, where you see dogs everywhere. In fact, over 60 million U.S. households have at least one dog that actually is registered as a pet. The hospitality and entertainment industry is really starting to recognize the shift where people like to take their dogs with them. It's kind of an interesting thing that is actually, my kids take their dogs everywhere. So in doing the research, it's important to take a look and understand some of the past precedents. But I think it's interesting that the state of Florida actually was the first state in the United States to actually pass legislation to enact allowing dogs in outdoor dining areas, of course with their owners with that. It's also, as we start taking a look at economic development and working with the West Orange Chamber, they actually have an advocacy initiative that is trying to increase the dog-friendly restaurants within the West Orange County area. When you take a look at actually the whole metro area, there's over 300 dog-friendly restaurants in the metro area. We've actually been voted as one of the top spots in the nation to be dog-friendly in the way that we have our environment. So we were asked to take a look at an ordinance so that Ocoee can be more dog-friendly as relates to building that opportunity for our establishments with our residents and our visitors. We actually worked very closely with the city attorney, with Ms. Crosby Collier with that, and developed an ordinance that we're going to be presenting tonight. But it's also very similar to the ones that are already in existence, including City of Orlando, Winter Garden, Winter Park. Town of Oakland, in fact, just passed their ordinance last month, and they don't have a restaurant. So they said that we're going to be ready when those people want to have their food outside and have their dogs. We're going to be ready to accommodate them with that component of that. So we really did follow the ordinance, but it really starts with that state statute 509.233. And where this is at is actually an exemption protocol to the Food and Drug Administration, which goes back to the Division of Hotels and Restaurants, allowing dogs, not service dogs, of course service dogs are allowed throughout the indoors, but to actually address the issues of allowing patrons to bring in their dogs to designated outdoor dining areas. Now the interesting points why we're at the P&Z is that to be able to enact this, it actually has to be codified in the Land Development Code for state statute. So this ordinance that actually we're presenting tonight will actually become a new article, which I'll speak to now, a new section, which we'll speak to in a minute. But the ordinance must also have the way to have permitting, must have specific regulations, as well as reporting mechanisms for any type of complaints from the community regarding any type of food service establishment. So when we take a look at amending the LDC, we're actually going to be adding a section to Chapter 180, Article 5 of the Land Development Code. It actually entitled, the draft ordinance that you have, Dog-Friendly Residence. The ordinance is set up that you have in your pack based on definitions. It also addresses the specific permit regulations and also general regulations that we'll have to do. Now, this is a citywide ordinance, so I'm not saying this is just for the downtown area or for the 50 West redevelopment area. It would be citywide. It'll be restricted to outdoor dining areas that are designated as dog-friendly. It's kind of interesting. When you take a look at Ocoee and you go to bringfido.com as a website, we already have 7 restaurants that are listed to be dog-friendly. So there's some things that they're already beginning to change, so we need to take a look at that and be actually proactive in how we go out and meet with them as well. So let's talk about the permit. A food service establishment must require a permit from the city of Ocoee to allow outdoor dining dogs. The annual fee we're actually proposing is $100. The ordinance specifies the information that must be provided by each applicant. Now, the applicant must also have, of course, their state license as a public food establishment through the Division of Hotels and Restaurants. So that's the first and foremost. They must be able to be a food service establishment. The applicant also must be able to have the location on the permit as well as the owner. For example, if the applicant is a tenant for a restaurant, but the property owner is somebody different, you have to have both applicants, both the owner and the applicant, sign the permit, so that owner is actually acknowledging allowing outdoor dining for dogs. Well, it's actually people with their dogs, because there are actually some very specific rules. In the permit process, they also have to provide a diagram showing the location of outdoor dining areas. This does not have to be an architectural drawing, but at least it's a sketch to be able to show how they're providing the tables, and how the enclosures are working, where the entrances are working, and where the signs. As well as in the application, they must provide the days and hours of operation for when the restaurant's working. Now, regulations, again, outdoor dining only. In fact, a sign must be located at each of the entrances for the indoor dining area that says that we love our dogs or something like that, but dogs are not allowed indoors. In fact, the area where the dog dining outside is must also be signed, basically telling people this is a dog-friendly dining area. In fact, there's different ways to be able to acknowledge it. In fact, saying if you're not comfortable around dogs, we'll seat you somewhere else. But you have to be able to see very clearly that this is an outdoor area allowing dogs. Now, when it gets down to be able to getting into the regulations, they get into the sanitation and actually the service workers and what they're allowed and not allowed to do. For existence, signs must be present for the employees telling them all the regulations, from reminding them to wash their hands if they happen to pet a dog, reminding them that if they see a patron feeding the dog off their plate, to tell them that's not applicable. You cannot put your plate down on the floor and allow the dog to eat it. However, if you have a dish that you bring for your dog, you're allowed to use that dish. And many restaurants and other places actually provide dog-friendly dishes if you were to ask for one. So there's different ways to go with this. There also has to be a hand sanitizer on each table. And you're actually the service to remind those to please, it's there for your use, please use that prior to eating. We also have to have located and actually information provided on the permit where there is a dog waste kit or disposal kit. It has to be within 10 feet of the outdoor dining area, and it has to be signed. The other issue too under general regulations is that any complaint must be actually given to the city. If, for instance, the city were to get a call of a complaint of a service establishment, we have to document that as well as send it to the state. There's also regulations that if there's an issue or incident at a outdoor dining area, perhaps there is a bite or dog disagreement or whatever, that there's actually regulations to call in Orange County Animal Services, and then we'll get a report as well as that component of that. However, we have found during research that those calls are not very often, and they're far in between, because people really are starting to be more responsible for understanding their dog behavior as well. So we're here today and we have the full package of the permit, and we had the Development Review Committee, we met on April 2nd, and we recommended approval, as well as staff recommends approval to add Section 520, the dog-friendly restaurants, to Chapter 180 of the City of Ocoee's Land Development Code. and I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions from anyone on the dais? Roger?
Would this apply to all breeds of dogs?
If a dog has been designated as a dangerous dog and there is a regulation within the ordinance and they're not allowed on, in fact, the signage has to say that any dangerous dog or any dangerous dog breed has been defined, is not allowed in the establishment.
Dangerous. I'm thinking size.
No, there's not a size stipulation.
I was going to say, just to that point, I've been to a number of the dog-friendly restaurants, and for those of you who know me, you know I have 2 Great Danes, and unfortunately one of them just passed away, but we've taken the Danes to a lot of the dog-friendly restaurants and never had anyone complain about the size, and other than probably the Mastiffs, I don't know that there's much bigger than my guys. So size I haven't seen. And just one other thing there, just if I remember correctly, there's a state ruling where you can't exclude pit bulls from anything. So,
Again, there's not a breed.
yeah, so,
It's
yeah.
only if you have,
Yeah,
if
so-
a dog has been deemed dangerous.
Right,
Which most
so-
people wouldn't bring
Yeah.
their dog to a restaurant if they've been deemed dangerous
Yeah.
usually.
So, and hopefully people with dogs that are dangerous know not to
Yes, sir.
do it because they're just putting themselves at risk for lawsuits too, so. All right. This, yeah.
I know that there's a fine and fee structure, but do we know, at least compared to some of the other local jurisdictions that do have it, what does that fine typically look
We
like?
actually have added the fine structure. We're going to be working with the attorney's office to develop that fine structure prior
Okay.
to final adoption if it goes to the commission level. So we are working those elements of price out. But yes, we'll be looking at other agencies so there's comparable.
Okay.
Dogs cannot be on furniture and furnishings.
Correct.
Can they be on laps?
The regulation speaks to furnishings only. If somebody is on a lap, however, the dog is over the table in eating off the plate, then that becomes an issue. So they have to be told by the server that they cannot be over the table. But if somebody's sitting in a chair waiting and they happen to pick their dog up, maybe they're waiting for a seat, that would be okay. They just can't be on the seat themselves by themselves. And they must be leashed.
Thank you.
Additional questions? All right, if not, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Anybody from the public have any questions they would like to ask staff at this time? Come on up, and you will need to fill out a form afterwards, but yeah, go ahead on up if you got a question here. Sorry, unfortunately, we just have to have it so that it gets on the record there and gets on the recordings, because they, unfortunately, they can't hear you from the seats well enough, so that's why we have you come up, and then we need your name for the technicalities. Yeah, the forms are in the back there. Yeah, you can fill the form out after. You don't have to fill it out right this minute. You know, we'll let you get back to the seat and fill it out. Just before you go, we need it handed in. That's all.
All right. My name is Linda Main, and I live here in Ocoee. My question is, would the doggy plates be washed in the same place that my dinner plate would be washed?
Actually, there can be 2 ways. First of all, the patron can bring their own doggy plates for a water bowl, or the establishment will actually have a separate washing area for those bowls. And that's basically on the state statute.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any additional questions? If not, we will close the public hearing and we will bring it back. There's only one motion necessary for this particular item. So can I have a motion to either recommend approval or disapproval of revisions to the Land Development Code relating to dog-friendly restaurants?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of amending Article 5 of the City of Ocoee Land Development Code to add the new section 5-20 to establish a local exemption to allow dogs in designated outdoor dining areas of food service establishments.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, so I have a motion by Member Wunderlich and a second by Vice Chair Williams. Let's vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it carries, and we send that on to the commission. All right. Next item on the agenda is the CLRM PUD. There's an annexation, a large-scale comprehensive plan development, and a rezoning to a PUD. So we'll have three amendments on this one, or three motions when we get to this one. I would like to introduce Planner Rumor, and you take it over there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Mike Rimmer, Development Services, City of Ocoee. The item before you is an annexation, large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, and a rezoning to PUD plan unit development. The property is located, you can see off the location map, it's on the south side of McCormick Road, west of Apopka Vineland, north of the West Orange Trail. The overall property under ownership is 212.3 acres. The property currently is in Orange County, of course. It has a land use of Rural Settlement 1-5. The property has several ponds, a portion of a lake, a runway, some warehouse buildings, and single-family homes built in 1935 and 1975 based off the property appraiser's data. The property is zoned Orange County Agricultural 1 with again, the Rural Settlement 1-5 land use designation. The property for annexation purposes, this was a request for voluntary annexation. The property meets the statutes for annexation as it is adjacent to property within the City of Ocoee on the south side. A right-of-way, body of water, trail does not provide a barrier which does not allow annexation from that. The property's land use adjacency would be the same on the north, the east, and adjacent to Trout Lake, be the rural settlement and the agricultural type zoning. The City of Ocoee's land use on the south is low density residential. The proposed annexation, I said the property was fully 212.3 acres. The proposed annexation and large-scale comprehensive plan use amendment is not for the full 212 acres. That has been reduced to about 193.2 acres. So in essence, some areas of property are being reduced from the application in order for the enclave requirement from statutes and what Orange County raised by cutting off, it was going to create an enclave for some residents. So there's a portion which will be annexed and retain the county jurisdiction, thus not physically creating an enclave. So for the matter of the ordinances, you're going to be looking at 193.22 gross acres. The property has historically been located outside of the city's and the county's joint planning area boundary. That joint planning area agreement, which included a boundary line and associated agreed-upon land uses has expired. Staff is presently working with Orange County on a new joint planning area agreement. I was there the other day meeting, and it's all of on there. The application for annexation, as I said, meets Florida statute requirements. The large-scale comprehensive plan use map amendment is to change the property from Orange County Rural 1.5 to a City of Ocoee low-density residential. The city's comprehensive plan really, the plan intends to do away with agricultural land uses, so we don't have agricultural land uses in our joint planning area agreement, proposed future land uses on properties in the county that were in the JPA. We give it a low-density residential land use, which allows a density of up to 4 dwelling units an acre. So the land use amendment is from Orange County Rural 1.5 to City of Ocoee low-density residential, and then the zoning is the planned unit development. It's creating its own special zoning district, not going to a straight agricultural or an R type of zoning with a set lot size out of traditional lot size. So what is proposed? The production and one of the top-rated home builders, D.R. Horton, is part of the application process, and they are proposing a subdivision which is 381 detached single-family homes on the 193.22 acres, which includes 68 acres of open space, and it's a dwelling unit of just under 2 dwelling units per acre, gross. As part of the large-scale land use amendment, we provided the data analysis that was provided by the applicant, which looks at all the level of services for police and fire and water and sewer, transportation, schools. You'll see that they do have some school mitigation to do for elementary and middle school. As well as we take that data analysis and we send it to the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council to review it for staff. That data analysis is a nice thick packet in your program.
Look that over.
The project fronts McCormick Road and Apopka Island, but the trail runs along the side, and it fronts, as I said, the West Orange Trail. As you can see from this is a plan unit development land use plan. So when we rezone a property to plan unit development, you can provide a bubble plan, which was been a bubble and said, whoop, 381 units. Or you do a more refined land use plan. The land use plan in Ocoee is adopted with the ordinance for rezoning. So you go to the land use plan to find out the requirements of that zoning district. And when it comes in, if upon approval, the next step is the subdivision process. It has to match the land use plan if it's not a bubble. But in this type of land use plan, it has to match. If it does not, that would be either a non-substantial amendment, depending on the modifications, or a substantial amendment. Typically, a substantial amendment is increasing density, changing some access points, stuff like that, introducing new uses. So we are adopting this plan, or the plan that comes out at the end of this process, so you will see the proposed. Now, in the engineering process, lots may kind of shift, but it's the same basic, the important aspects, the buffers, the setbacks, location points, lot sizes, number of lots are not going to change. With regards to steps, this will go to a city commission meeting, which will have the city's processes. We will have the first reading of ordinance for the annexation, the transmittal ordinance, the rezoning, and land use. The transmittal is a public hearing. If this project is voted to transmit to Department of Economic Opportunity, the city will send that package to the state, several state agencies in all the surrounding districts, Winter Garden, Orange County, Windermere, Apopka, and East Central Florida Region Planning Council, and many others, there's a list, for their comments and review. At that end of that review process, we get what's called an oral report, either an objection, a recommendation, or condition, or a pass. If we have an objection, we've got to come back and this applicant has to work through that objection, and we have to come back through to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Commission and describe that objection and how they're going to overcome it. If we get a recommendation or a condition, you're fine to pass that and adopt that large-scale transmittal. The property, as you see, has 2 entrance points on the McCormick Road, which is a county-owned and maintained road. There is not an access point proposed along Apopka Island, and there's no, you don't see it off this plan, but if I can find, you can see how far Clerico and Ocoee, they don't have any property ownership that abuts Clerico and Ocoee Road. Water and service is to be, it's in the Orange County Water and Sewer Utility Service Area. So it'll be provided, they'll have to permit through Orange County the extension of lines, lift station. They'll provide water and sewer. The city will provide reclaimed water to the site. And we're allowed to do that under our utility agreement. In your packet, I provided the transportation study. In the data analysis, there's environmental transportation study, which is reviewed, which is provided by the applicant, their consultant. It's reviewed by a city's consultant. So we have 2 different agencies reviewing this transportation study. As part of the large-scale transmittal, it will go to Orange County and it will go to the state DOT. There's no state roads adjacent, and it's not creating, this is not a regional development that the Expressway Authority is really going to look at. It doesn't create a number of trips that you've got to worry. So it will be reviewed by Orange County and has been reviewed by 2 consulting transportation professionals. As I mentioned, schools, it's projected to generate around 72 elementary students, 36 middle school students, and 49 high school students, and they do have to create some desks for the elementary school and middle school. Fire service will be provided by Orange County and City of Ocoee. We have a joint responder agreement. The project, as you can see in an aerial, it's heavily wooded, and it's got some lakes and ponds. As you see, the type of development, and I'll let the applicant kind of discuss this more, it's sort of like a conservation cluster development. It proposes large buffers on the perimeter and concentrating the units in the middle, and provides a lot of open space. The lot sizes proposed within this PUD are 40s, 50s, and 60s. There is a amenity center. There's stormwater retention. There's no proposed development along the West Orange Trail. There's no amenity center proposed adjacent to the trail. I want to show you as well, really quickly, the property does abut Trout Road at the western side. Trout Road is not a standard county road. It's not a width of 50-foot right-of-way, and it's not to a standard of thickness and pavement section. It's really not a road you can use for further subdivision of land. This is sort of just a color layout showing how the buffers will be proposed to be remain untouched. The stormwater retentions in blue, the different lot matrix is shown with the different lot sizes, achieving 381 lots. You see the access points. Staff is recommending approval of the annexation and the large-scale comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning the PUD. I'm available for any comments. The applicant and home builder is present and may want to give some brief words.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff before we invite the home builder up?
I'm assuming all the trees are gonna stay that are already there now, so they're not gonna go in there and bulldoze everything? Like around the property? All the trees and wildlife that's already there? And I
Yes.
noticed in the middle, there's not much there anyway, so.
Yes.
Mr. Excuse me, Mr. Rummer, my question is regarding something that I've been meaning to ask for some time, but looking at this made me think of it. And that is there still the requirement, particularly for the single-family homes, that there be 2 trees on every lot?
City has a requirement of 3
It is
trees.
3 trees. So okay. So with the clustering of these properties, my concern is that it may create more of a utility problem if we adhere to that in the long run for this community. So
If you look around a number of communities in Ocoee, if you look at subdivisions that are in the Orange County utility service area, you'll find a lot of those subdivisions have street trees. And Orange County will allow that. I did allow that. You'll see that in the subdivision. Typically, in the new type of development scenario, because you have to get drainage, you have to raise the lot one way to drain a certain way, and you're providing undergrounding of power and water and sewer reclaim, that many of the utilities run on, at least on one side, under the sidewalk. You get it under the pavement, you got to get the sewer and the water and the reclaim separated from each other a certain distance. They got to go down. The deeper the pipes go in the ground, the wider the easement, because you got to dig, you got to put that dirt. So a lot of times you're not able to achieve what the code calls for as a street tree, which is in that area between the pavement and the sidewalk. We can achieve 3 trees per lot, 1 in the front yard, 2 in the backyard, however they want to do that. Probably not a good idea to do 3 oak trees, and we have a landscape architect on staff, and we work with people to kind of come up with a nice tree package so they can meet the canopy. You got to have a tree that creates shade. So.
okay. That answers the question. Thank you.
Any other additional questions? Okay, I got a few. One of them, and I know I asked you this offline the last time, but I just want to make sure I ask on the record. Since there's a airport on there, does the FAA get involved at all? Do they need to know that we're taking an airport down or anything like that, considering minimal air traffic and being notified when someone takes off from there?
Right, I don't know. That's a good question if the property owner is going to notify, because it shows up on maps as an airstrip and take that number off. I don't have that answer, and perhaps the applicant will know what they're going to do.
Okay, because I just wasn't sure if this is something that we were required to do. I noticed in the notes, and I'm glad you sort of commented on it in the comments there, but I think in there they said the nearest fire station was the one on Clark Road.
The cities, yeah.
Yeah, because I would think the one out on, I believe it's still Apopka Island. I don't think it's changed names yet. I think that one is probably the closer of the two.
And there may be West Road. We have one on West Road,
Yeah.
and that site may move in a fire station, city,
Right.
somewhere along Ocoee, West Road area, which would move it to the east a little bit, and it would, and Arden Park is developing their final phases, and as part of a requirement of that, they have to build the rest of the extension of Clark Road.
Right.
So Clark Road will be online sometime soon. The plans are just about done being engineered. They'll build it. And you'll have that quicker north-south access to cut up and not have to do the Ingram bend.
All right. Let's see. I got the answer that McCormick is a county road, which I was pretty sure it was. Is there any talk about putting a traffic light at the corner of Apopka Island and McCormick now with the additional traffic? I know that's technically county and county, but we are putting a number of trips on that road.
Right. The only traffic lights, with regard to this project, which I have had 2 meetings with Orange County on this project, a signal has not come up as there's one planned proposed. We are looking at signal, we are retiming the signals on Clark Road from the mall all the way up to Ocoee.
Yeah.
And we're looking at a signal at Ingram,
Okay.
which is a county road. They're going to do a warrant analysis to see what kind of help they're going to provide or if they'll put one in, but. So,
Yeah.
but no.
Okay. I'm just curious because while that's both county roads, the folks are going to come here since they're part of Ocoee to say that, hey,
Yes.
we need a traffic light. So I just figured I'd at least get that on record and get it asked so that we can decide what we're doing with
And
that.
If you read the traffic analysis, the trip generation did not trigger a requirement for a signal or a proportionate share towards one.
Yeah, as much as I love the job that our traffic analysis folks do, and when I was on the commission, I was on the Metro Plan Advisory Council, I still question their numbers because we didn't need one on Clark Road either. But if you've driven Clark Road any time recently, you know that that's maybe not the case. While it's technically not needed, it's something that I think we should really look at because I could see that morning traffic is going to become a bit more of an issue at the corner of McCormick and Apopka Island there. All right. No other questions up on the table. I will invite the applicant to come on up, and if you have any questions there or anything to add. But one of the things I would like to know is what is the deal with the FAA, and do they need to be notified because that is an airport? As much as it's a individual airport, I guess, but there is some minor traffic.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Kathy Hadaway with Polis & Bennett, 2602 East Livingston Street, Orlando. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. Mr. Roomer did a great presentation and took a lot of my comments, so I'm going to go through mine fairly quickly and allow additional time for you to ask any questions that you may have. So here's just another aerial view of the property. As Mr. Roomer stated, it is 193 acres located between McCormick Road and the West Orange Trail, north and south, and located west of Apopka Vineland. And our application tonight includes both all of the annexation requests, the comp plan amendment for a future land use map change, and also the PUD rezoning. With regard to the annexation, the property owner has applied to annex into the city and become a part of the city of Ocoee. The property, as you can tell, this is the property boundary here, And all of the area in the kind of the lavender color is the city limits of Ocoee. So the property is contiguous to the city along this southern boundary, which makes it both appropriate and eligible for annexation into the city. With regard to the comprehensive plan future land use map amendment, the property, as was stated, is currently in Orange County and has the Orange County future land use designation of rural 1/5. And the annexation into the city will require us to change that future land use to a City of Ocoee designation. So our proposed future land use is for low-density residential. Again, this is our property here in the center, and you can see that adjacent to the south is also the same color of our proposed low-density residential. Immediately to the south, also here on the northwest corner, this is also the same future land use designation that we are requesting. And I do want to point out that the areas here in this kind of a grayish color are planned development future land use projects. When we submitted our comprehensive plan amendment application, we evaluated how this project is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of your comprehensive plan, and we provided that justification for your staff's review. We also did the public services analyses where we looked at roads, solid waste, water, wastewater, all of the public services that would serve the project. We did an environmental analysis, and as was discussed, we provided a transportation analysis. On our zoning, the zoning today is existing is A1 Orange County, and we are requesting the designation of low-density PUD or PUD-LD, which again is consistent with those properties that are adjacent to, immediately to the south and to the northwest, with our property being here in the center of the slide. This is our land use plan that was submitted as part of the rezoning analysis. And I'd just like to take a couple of minutes to point out some features of the proposed land use plan. And as Mr. Rumor stated, this will be adopted as part of the rezoning. And if any changes are made to this as the project moves into final engineering, those changes would have to come back to the city for a modification to the PUD plan. So great thought and consideration has gone into this plan in order to really honor the land that it's on and honor the features of the land. We are preserving almost 100 acres around the boundaries of the project, with including Trout Lake and the wetlands. Just in those three categories, approximately 100 acres will be left in its natural state. We have provided significant buffers, as you can see, around the edges of the property. The closest residential lot to any buffer is a little over 70 feet. So typically you would see on a buffer, you might see 25 feet or even less in some cases, particularly residential, adjacent to residential. In our case, we have 70, I believe it's 72 feet here, which is the closest. And then as you can see, factoring that out, there's hundreds of feet, several hundred feet in these other areas. We have concentrated our development into the center of the property so that this, in answer to the commissioner's question, these trees will remain in their natural state. And really from a practical situation, you won't even be able to see the development from McCormick Road or Apopka Island. The tree canopy is that dense in those areas, and you can see that there's no residential development adjacent to those roads. The green areas that you see are parks, both passive and active parks. This park on the south, the 3-acre park, will connect to the West Orange Trail with a trailhead for the residents of the community for bicycles and pedestrian activities. Our amenity center will probably be located up in this area near the entrance to the community, and then the other park areas are scattered throughout the development. We also have planned view sheds in the community. And what that means is you'll look at the majority of our streets. At the end of the street, when you're driving down the street, instead of seeing a home or the front of a home, you'll see a natural area. So if you look, for example, down this street, the terminus of the road is at a pond. The terminus is a park down at the southern area next to the West Orange Trail. So this was very carefully considered so that you have these view sheds throughout the project. As was mentioned, also we have 3 proposed lot sizes. We have 40-foot lots, 40 feet in width, 50-foot lots, which are the medium color yellow, and 60-foot lots, which are the lighter color in yellow. And because we've concentrated our development into the center of the site where it is the least environmentally sensitive area, we have been able to really contain that development into the central area and preserve these buffers and this natural condition around the perimeter of the property. One point I did want to touch on is density. So our density, and just to show you and give you a comparison of some of the projects in the immediate area, our density, a gross density, which is how the city's code requires us to measure it, is under 2 units per acre. So that's less than half of what is allowed under the proposed future land use designation. The proposed future land use designation would allow up to 4 units per acre, but our density is under 2 units per acre. This is consistent with the Forest Trail community to the south at 2 units per acre. Oak Trail Reserve is 4 units per acre. Kensington Manor is about 1 unit per acre, and Arden Park is at 2.73 dwelling units per acre. So as you can see, we're certainly compatible and consistent with the other subdivisions and developments that are within this area. So in summary, our proposed density is less than we are requesting in our future land use designation. Our proposed PUD LD zoning is consistent with the proposed future land use and will provide significant open space and perimeter buffering. And the proposed development will provide a variety of lot sizes in a new quality development for the city that will be aimed at both first-time home buyers as well as move-up buyers. And our request of you this evening is to recommend approval of our annexation request, to recommend transmittal of our comprehensive plan future land use map to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, and to recommend approval of our PUD zoning. That concludes my presentation. I'm certainly available for any questions, and I will answer the FAA question. Mr. Chairman, I would like to reserve some time in my presentation for responses to any questions or comments that may come from the public hearing. With regard to the FAA, I know there's, as you could tell from our project land use plan, there's certainly no intent to have any active aviation uses on the property. So if there is a process to go through, such as a decommission of that identification of that airstrip, we will go through that process to ensure that the proper channels are followed.
Yeah, I would just hate to have somebody need an emergency landing and someone tell them from a tower that, oh, well, you have a landing strip here, and all of a sudden they get there and, no, I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
sure the FAA will want to remove those from their operating maps.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant? Got a couple myself. One of, you had a question there,
No,
yes
let
or
you
no?
go first, I got one.
Okay, well, go ahead, Al.
All right, you said that, like the land use map at 1.97 per acre, Is that like per what's used or an average of the whole 200-plus acres?
That's what that is, in planning terms, it's known as gross density, which is taking the overall 193 acres and dividing that into the 381 proposed units. From a net density, which you may be familiar with, like other jurisdictions such as Orange County, ask you to provide a net density where you would take out your environment, your wetlands, typically your wetlands and your lakes. When we've actually done that calculation, and we're at about 2.2 when you calculate it in that manner.
And then lastly, your setbacks. What's your rear setback on these? I mean, is that the 20 feet, which is the?
It's probably, let me just double check that.
And then
Rear
while you're looking at
setback is
that,
20 feet, you're
It's 20
correct.
feet, and
Yes.
then house to house. What's the distance, the gap?
There'd
between-
be 10 feet between houses. So if it's a 5-foot side setback, which it would provide then 10 feet between each building.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Two questions. One I forgot to ask earlier of Mike, and that is, as far as the development, does it need a building or anything for meetings? I don't know if that was actually in our city code, or whether we just, as long as it was just like a park, they could get together, or for a
Determining
pavilion.
Based on, by the land development code, based on the number of lots that is present, that is in the subdivision, they have a number of amenities and types that they can provide. If you've looked at the Kensington Manor subdivision and seen their required building, it is these buildings have turned out to be insurance and theft and graffiti nightmare.
Yeah.
You can fit 10 people in them.
Right.
You probably usually have at an HOA meeting, but for the hundreds of residents. So we've gone to a covered pavilion.
Okay.
In Arden Park, they did several big covered pavilions, McCormick Reserve, Bryn Mawr. So a building, we don't require those anymore.
Okay.
If we had a really large 1,000-lot subdivision, yes. But these smaller ones, it just
Okay.
work out.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that would
They end
be
up fencing
covered.
them with 6-foot fence and put security cameras, and it just doesn't. Thinking of, there's another one. So we do a covered pavilion. They have amenities. They'll provide the parks and the open space.
All right. And the other question, with the proximity to the traffic light on Popka Vineland Road for the crossing on the West Orange Trail, are you looking at the park that's on, that's basically adjacent to Popka Vineland Road having an entrance onto the West Orange Trail? Or is it just going to be the one onto the back side there?
The only access to the West Orange Trail would be on the southern boundary,
Okay.
and not on the eastern boundary. And the main reason for that is that there is significant topographic change or elevation change. If you drive along on a Popka Vineland in that area adjacent to this property, you're actually looking at the tops of trees when you drive by. And then there's obviously the security rail system along there to protect the pedestrians and cyclists along that area. So it's just not a feasible access point.
All right. Yeah, I was just curious, only because, like I said, I know if you want to head towards Apopka, you have that traffic light is fairly close there, so not sure if that would have made a help. But, okay, that was all. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One more question, I apologize, I just thought
No
of
problem.
it. Because this is a clustered subdivision, what is the width of the interior roads? And is it going to be able to accommodate what often happens is the double parking, on both sides of the road and the passage of a vehicle? What is the width of the road plan, of the interior roads?
The internal roads are a 50-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
which is fairly significant. So there's sufficient, typically there's sufficient space for parking on one side, but when we get to our final engineering plans and final site development plan, we will work through all those details with city staff as to how they want to accommodate that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. At this point, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing. Just sort of as a matter of comment, one of the things here on the that says if there's a petitioner's presentation, it can be 15 minutes. Citizens' comments are 5 minutes. I've been on your side of the aisle more times than I care to mention, especially with Orange County Public Schools. And I know to have a presenter be given 5 minutes for the main presenter, to be given 5 minutes and try to fill their, actually give a good comment is not usually enough time. So having my chair preferences, the main presenter I'm going to not start the clock for. We will give you the time. For those of you who gave the time to the presenter, I do appreciate that. And I know you have to do that in the other locations, so I know you come in expecting that. But for the main presenter, Charlie, I'm not gonna start the clock on you. I will give you the time that you need. For everybody else, it will be the 5 minutes. Would ask when you do, please try not to be repetitive. None of us want to be here till midnight, but we do want to get all of your concerns in. So with that, Charlie, I'm going to let you come up to the podium first there, and go ahead and make your presentation for us.
Well, at the onset, I will say that this is a far more articulated plan than we saw from this developer, what was that, a year and a half ago? Where they very quickly told us all that we're a national developer and we really don't care what you people think about locally, which didn't set well. But, so, we always knew this was coming. And by the way, folks, I've been in Clarkona
Charlie,
for...
I'm sorry, I didn't ask you to give your name and address,
Oh.
just so they have it for the record. Sorry about that.
Charlie Hardiman, 5861 North Apopka Vineland Road, Orlando, Florida, 32818.
Thank you.
Thank you. We always knew this was coming. We've lived in this area for long enough, and we always figured it'd be a fight between Ocoee or Apopka. Somebody'd get us. And, you know, it's growth. That's a busy place. And this appears, at this point, to be a fait accompli. I mean, once this is annexed into Ocoee, we don't have a vote. So we're trying to be passionate about it now. And I honestly don't see how we're going to be able to stop this. But we do have a couple of issues that really ring home to us. And you know, so let me express the opinions of some of the residents. I think y'all took the easy way in working with the developer on this in going to the entrances on McCormick Road. I've talked to 4 or 5 people from traffic engineering and traffic analysis. And the road on the south, the Clarkona-Ocoee, you know, it's a major urban collector is a designation for it. And it does have excess capacity, much more excess capacity. When I talked to them about the traffic patterns on McCormick Road, they said, well, that's a residential road. We don't even have that classified as a minor urban collector. It's residential. And we don't think we had traffic counts. And the traffic counts that we have that are being referenced are from 2017, I believe. At least that's what I got from traffic engineering. And I will tell you, do you have your little pointer, a laser pointer or something I can use? Once I get checked out, there. Let me show you where I live. Should have brought my own. I live right across the street from the bottom right-hand corner there, back in the property on 5 acres. I will tell you, I'll use a polite term, anytime day rush hour from McCormick Road, the intersection of McCormick and Apopka Vineland, which in my conversations with traffic engineering, they are not contemplating a light. I had that conversation with them. That is a goat rodeo. That traffic is backed up all the way from Clarkona, Ocoee to McCormick Road, solid, 2 to 3 times a day. That being the beginning of the day, the drive time home, and when the school buses are going. It is unbelievably bad. Not as bad as the traffic below Ocoee, Clarkona. That road is classified as a service level of F, which is terrible, terrible. Clarkona, Ocoee is a C, and it's got capacity. So it feels to us, and again, we've dealt with this developer before, they were condescending and rude. They really don't care what we think about in the rural settlement. Feels like Ocoee's getting all the benefit of the increased growth in the city, and by the way, growth is okay, but the rural settlement is getting the traffic. The rural settlement's getting the traffic. It feels like we're getting the short end of the stick. My brother went over and talked to Mr. Rummer a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a couple of weeks, and talked to him about, well, why can't you come in from Clarkona, Ocoee? And he said, well, we pointed out a spot, and he said, well, that's a wetland. And I said, it may be designated a wetland, but it was a drainage structure that was created when they widened the road, right? Drainage structure, designated wetland. And when I said, well, why can't you do it a little bit different? The comment was, well, it's a wetland. And I said, drainage structure. And the answer was, well, I didn't know that. Okay? And so I think we conveniently don't dig deep when we want to dig deep. If you wanted to push the point, you could make it work. Okay, so I thought it was the easy way. The other thing that was a little bit of an aggravation is the joint planning agreement was terminated with Orange County, and as soon after that was done, in came the development. Just not good, not good. And that joint planning agreement will not be in place to influence anything with this, especially as it goes to Ocoee. I think I don't think the development plan was pressed hard enough to get the right answer to the access to that, especially when you look right up on McCormick Road. Not only do you have a school, but you've got a horseman's park there that stables 246 horses and has shows probably 75% of the weekends of the year, and that's a great amenity. Clarkona is an equestrian-centered community. It's really going to make that a mess. So it'll be a mess on rush hour, and it'll really be a mess when they're doing a show, hope the roof doesn't leak, at the community, at the Horseman's Park, okay? Is in a rural settlement, we're not like some of the other rural settlements in Orange County. We don't have a lot of bugs. We're not a big business. We can't figure it out. We don't have hitching posts, right? That was the comment. Rural settlement, where are the hitching posts? And we discussed it. I know it didn't offend me, but it was offensive to some of you who expressed that opinion to me. I mean, that's not the way we want to deal with people that are going to be our partners going through. It's condescending. So, the coincidence of all this, that the developer is the same developer that developed the parcel just to the west of there, didn't plan on this happening together, no joint planning of their two properties, and it's not like this one came up new. They had to know that was coming, okay? So I guess if we talk about it, traffic's gonna be tough coming on the road. It's gonna really make Apopka Vineland Road unbearable. It's gonna be like going on to the east side of the county because the traffic's coming through McCormick, and then it'll have to go down. The schools, I can't even imagine. I'm glad you've addressed the enclave issue because that was significant, okay? But going from 1 to 5 to this, thank goodness there's green space. I'm appreciative, but I wish you would go back and rethink some of the basic tenets that they're approaching this with. So I have a couple of asks. One is really go back and press the issue of can we enter the development from the south side instead of the north? 2, ensure the green space. And I'm glad to see that they've allowed for the green space, and you are correct. You see the top of the trees when you come down Apopka Vineland Road. You know, so here we've got a thing between the Horseman's Park and on the Horseman's Trail, because in that section of the county, that is an equestrian trail. Do I see anything equestrian about that facility? Not a thing. And I'm glad it's low-density housing, so there's at least 10 feet between the homes. I can't even imagine what high-density housing is. I think that's right buttoned with each other, okay? Work with Orange County Traffic Engineering, because when I looked at their 10-year plan, I don't see anything that's going to alleviate any of these problems. It will exacerbate the problem and make it terrible. When I come out of my driveway now, and fortunately, I live right where my driveway is right where the signalization is for the West Orange Trail crossing. So if it's really bad, I'm lucky. I yell over to one of the bikers and say, push the button. And when they do, traffic stops and out I go. But if not, I can only go north, period. Okay? And like I said, you've addressed the enclave issues. I thought two things were interesting in the presentation. One, that we got to have 3 trees per acre or per lot, not trees with a diameter breast height like these. We have an area that's treed. And the 2 areas that were shown as planned unit development north of us, there's the 10-acre parcel right next to the church. There's a 43-acre parcel just north of me and another 13.5-acre parcels. Those are owned by the church that came in clear cut every single tree, every tree on their site. And then the pastor had to helicopter in because he was so important, okay? So I think we know what's going to happen to the roads. We're not planning on it. We're given the increased traffic to the rural settlement and not to the roads that can accommodate it. And we just feel slighted in this process because we've been run around, and when we dealt with this developer before, they were condescending. So we know it's coming, but we just want it to be done consciously and smart. Yeah, I did pretty good. That's not 10 minutes. Did I cover everything?
All right. Okay. Well, whatever you didn't cover, hopefully we'll get some additional, because we do have some additional folks that do want to speak, and we'll let them speak. Again, like we said, they'll be in the 5 minutes, but since you were the main presenter, we did want to give you time to present.
I appreciate it.
I just somehow, with all my time doing that, I think that's only right to have the citizens given the amount of time they actually need to present their case.
We don't expect to stop it, but we want it to be done consciously.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. All right, let's see, I have one from Dale Sanders. You still want to speak there, Dale? Okay, come on up and give us your name and address, and we'll start once you get up there and do that, we'll start the clock and give you your 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Dale Sanders, and I live at 125 Piney Woods Road, Popka, Florida, 32703. To start, members, thank you for letting us speak. I really appreciate it. We are very grateful for you allowing us to come in here and speak with you on this matter. It's so vitally important. I want to let you know, first thing, is that the development that you're looking at, that you're talking about, is directly south of the road where we live. We live in Oak Hill subdivision, directly north of the property. And it's right off of Damon Road. Now, there are about 20 houses in that development. If you go past the Clarcona Horse Park, we live up in that area, and there's only about 20 homes in that area. And most of the folks that live in that area are elderly. Not a lot of them have children, so the traffic that's coming out of that road is minimal. Our concern for this property, the designation of 1 to 5, needs to stay where it's at. First thing that we are adamantly opposed to is the annexation. I know this is not the time or the place to get into a heated argument about that, but we moved out there for just the purpose of being in a rural area. Another thing is, the thing that really concerns us is that McCormick Road is only about 2 miles long. And what Mr. Hardeman says is correct. That road is not a full-size road. They have done improvements to it. They have made it better, but that's a narrow road with the traffic patterns that they've developed over the last couple of years don't even take into account the other developments that are in there, that are coming up, that are being built in that area, along both sides of those roads and on both sides of Ingram Road. In Ingram Road, another thing that I wanted to speak with is that the trees that they are taking down there on the road, the development off of Ingram, is completely level. They didn't leave a single tree in that whole development off of Ingram Road. And our development with only 20 houses, when I moved into that property, there were 52 trees on my property alone. So that tells me that they're going to come in there and clear cut that completely down, because you can't have any trees with the development that they're going to make on this property. Also, so that comes out to about 4 houses per acre. Another thing is safety. There is the West Orange Trail has a spur that crosses over McCormick Road, and I've seen people almost nailed on bikes that are crossing that road, and because people don't pay attention. So if they come out of there and they speed up, they're going to try to get to Ocoee Road as quickly as they can. There's going to be some accidents. And I apologize for that. The width of the roads in the development, I think, are way too narrow. We used to live in a neighborhood where the roads were very narrow, and I think you're going to get into a situation where you're talking about public safety. I think that's about it. Another thing is the development doesn't take into account that there are no lights on either end of McCormick. There needs to be lights on either end, because the traffic in the morning time and the evening time is so bad that I've seen at least 3 accidents since we've been there on McCormick Road and Ocoee Road. So they have not taken into any account of all the excess traffic, plus the other developments that might go in there, to take into account for the traffic lights that might need to be there.
Thank
And
you.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions for me?
I don't.
Okay.
All right, let's
Thank
see, who else do we have here? Jean Laird? Did I say that right? It's Ray Jean Laird, L-A-I-R-D? No? Or no, maybe that was, or is that for a different one there, Jean? You're for the Ocoee Village?
This is the Ocoee Village Center.
No, this is the, no, sorry, you're for the Ocoee Village, okay. Let me see if I've got anybody else. Robert Yost? Robert, come on up there, your name and address, and we'll give you your 5 minutes there, sir.
Robert Yost at Forest Trails, 23201 Laurel Blossom. Actually, the development's going to butt right up against ours development. I'm the vice president of HOA, and we also have the president and somebody else here as well. My concern is one question: is it a gated community?
No, I don't believe it is.
Okay. In other words, the buffer zone confuses me. We have the Orange Trail, okay, and of course I'm concerned with the Horseman's Park. My daughter comes down and rides sometimes, and she rides along Orange Trail, and of course she's going to lose a lot of riding area in that area as well that they're going to develop. But between the Orange Trail, you said there'd be a 75-foot buffer zone. Is that correct?
I think that was what they said.
75? Now, is that going to be, is that the Orange Trail, the wall, and then a 75-foot buffer zone, or is it going to be the buffer zone, wall, or fencing?
Not sure, but in the rebuttal, we can have them answer that.
Is she here for that? Would she be able to answer that?
Well, usually we, instead of having her keep
Okay.
coming back and forth, we just wait till the end and let her
My
catch
concern,
all
like,
the
if
questions.
we got a buffer zone, I'd like to see the buffer zone and then the fencing, okay? In our case, we have the buffer zone and forest trails, and the people have the option of having cast iron fencing and a solid fence, okay? And they have up to 75 feet or so between the trail and that. Gives more of a nature. Also, my other big concern is, of course, is traffic. I moved out there when it was only a 2-lane road, okay, Clark on Ocoee. And we liked the area because it was more rural area. Of course, it's changed a lot. And my concern right now is I'm looking at going at the peak hours, going to work and coming back from work. I've noticed a few times, every time now, that in fact, I was coming here to this meeting at Clark Road, from Clark Road to Clark on Ocoee, I counted probably close to 45, 50 cars waiting in line to turn, okay? And that was not including going out towards Silver Star and another row, met a lot of cars coming down as well. So there's no turning lanes. There's one turning lane on Clark Road going to the right, but it's not long enough. Coming from Poppin Vineland, there's no turning lanes either. There's one turning lane going to the left near the auto zone, and you really can't get on. By the time there's only takes 2 cars in that turning lane, and the light turns by then. So what's the purpose of even having a turning lane there? So more turning lanes as well, and also traffic lights. It's a nightmare. I go through Windstone to get around, to go through the subdivision just to avoid those long lines of automobiles. Also, you have you have a play area along that area. Now, I was wondering if the entrance is going to be from, where's the entrance to the Orange County Trail? It was pointed out. Do you have
We'll be on that park that's on the south side of the subdivision.
The actual trail, the path is not shown. It'll be shown makes it to the next step. The subdivision plan will show the intricacies for it.
Okay. All right. Well, what I'm concerned was the buffer zone, had more of a natural look.
Yep.
And then the traffic is too heavy here now. Something's got to be done about it. It's ridiculous. And I have reservations about some developers say one thing and they do something different. So, all right, I guess that's about all I have. And by the way, the airstrip was all grass area.
Yeah.
It was private. I used to hike back there, so,
Yeah.
and ride. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Okay, next person, Troy Corbin. And again, Troy, give us your name and address, and then we'll give you the 5 minutes there.
Thank you, sir. My name is Troy Corbin. I am at 2220 Laurel Blossom Circle, and I'm the president of the Forest Trails Homeowners Association, which is the property directly to the south of the proposed subdivision. I think our primary concern, along with, it's the traffic certainly, but what I noticed there is their largest park backs up to all of our homes. So rather than create the park that backs up to the homes in their own subdivisions and closer to the homes of those that they're proposing, they are pushing that to a new entrance into the West Orange Trail that will certainly be cut down. The trees will not be there, so that there's somewhat of a misnomer there about this buffer along the West Orange Trail, that if you take out that park, that is a good portion of our subdivision there. What I would prefer to see is that their park is more along their own property, and rather than have their entrance create a brand new entrance to the West Orange Trail, if you look just to the east of where that park is, there is an entrance to the West Orange Trail from our subdivision. So now we're creating another 2 points of entry, another point there of entry into the trail. those get extremely busy, not only from our neighborhood, but everyone else, rather than using Horseman Park. That tends to be a throughfare for everyone that gets on the park, rather than coming at a public entrance down on Ingram or at the Horseman Park. They come in through our subdivision. So I sense that we will even have more coming in and out of our neighborhoods just because of that entrance. But I certainly would like to see their park more in their area that they're developing, rather than putting it into the backyards of our homes along our subdivision. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see. I know some of you had given time so that Charlie could have it, so I'm not sure if you do really want to speak or you're happy with what Charlie had said. So I'll call out some names. If you want to speak, you do have time. If not, if you just assume pass, we would appreciate that. Unless, like I said, you've got additional items to add to it. Bill Williams. And again, same thing, Bill, give your name and address and for the record there.
Good evening. Bill Williams, 3101 Ocoee Drive in Apopka. I'm also in the Oak Hill subdivision, which is located at the north end of McCormick Road. It's about, the north end of Damon Road. It's unfortunately not on the map, but McCormick is right in between the two planned entrances. Our subdivision starts about 0.8 of a mile north of that entrance. So, and that is our only egress from our neighborhood. So one, I would like to question the school analysis. The estimate is, I believe I did a little quick math, it was about 150 additional students across the different levels. So a little quick math for me, that's about one child per 2 planned homes. And especially the comments made that this is going to be a first-time buyer subdivision, which is typically young families. So I would encourage that we revisit those numbers, especially knowing that our elementary school for that area is at capacity currently, and that is not Clarkona Elementary. It's currently being used as a training center. So the potential of reopening Clarkona Elementary is definitely a possibility if this comes to pass, which is going to create an additional traffic burden. I've lived in the subdivision for 22 years, so we've seen a lot of change in the area. Growth happens, we understand that. The last couple of years, traffic, especially Apopka Vineland, and even Ocoee Apopka, the traffic has gotten really bad, especially in the morning commute to work between 7 and 8:30 can be really tough. Currently, McCormick doesn't have traffic lights, so neither end of it does, and then the other egress would be the south end of Ingram on the Clarkona Ocoee. No traffic light there as well. So there can really create some problems. I would like to just repeat, looking at possibly a southern exit for this subdivision onto Clarkona Ocoee, a much more road that's more designed to handle the traffic versus McCormick Road. A question, you may not have the answer, but a question. The green space that's mentioned, does that become deeded to the community or the subdivision? Who retains it? It does? Thank you. And then Based on experience of many subdivisions going in the area over the years, the wildlife, typically creates a wildlife migration. So I know a couple of years ago, we dealt with a raccoon that had migrated and ended up in our attic, so it was fun. So that's a challenge. One other question, because at one point I thought that I'd heard that they're going to be, the sewer is going to be septic tanks? Or will it be on
It'll be on sewer system.
a county sewer? Okay. Big changes. Please take a long, hard look at this. It is going to exacerbate a traffic condition that is getting worse all the time based on experience. So please look at this. And the county did not approve it for a reason. Don't know what those reasons are. But hopefully you guys are working together with the county to do this in harmony.
Mr. Chairman, while he's here, I'm going to show the school.
Yep.
The school numbers are generated from Orange County Public Schools. They do the test, they just give them the number of units and they generate the number of students, the
Yeah.
number of desks available, the encumbered. So that number comes from the school board, their calculation. It wasn't by the.
I get it, but it's still
Yeah,
slightly
I got you.
questionable. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Jenny Sweezy? All right, thank you. Curtis Stone Jr. Yeah, you want to come on up, give his name and address, and we'll let you speak there, sir. Okay.
My name is Curtis Stone, and I appreciate y'all being here, listening to us, and making your decisions. I have I'm very hard of hearing, and I haven't heard what they have said, but I think they've covered most everything except that retention pond in the upper right corner. I was just wondering why they would have it, yes, right there. Why they would have that over a cattle and sheep dip vats that were there in the 20s and 30s that they used arsenic to kill the ticks and lice on the cattle and sheep. And another thing I was wondering about, I've Clark Corner resident for since 1950, and I've fished in Trout Lake and ridden all over the entire area there by horseback, and I can't fathom how they could put houses north of Trout Lake. Yes, in that area there, and because that is part of Trout Lake in that area right there, and also where there's a green area right above it that's big and, to the right, yes, right there. That also is another little small lake that I'm sure has water in it right now. And I can't see how they could put houses in through there also. But that was two of my main concerns. Plus the fact that the two outlets going on to McCormick Road there, I can't see the traffic being feasible at any time. People going to work, children going to school, fire trucks coming in and out whenever needed, or ambulance services, or anything else to that, because the traffic is going to be atrocious, because during early morning and late afternoons, it's back to back and bumper to bumper in that area right now. If anybody's been on that road, they can tell. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that's probably something that we probably need to do better at, but don't we have help for hearing impaired there? So yeah, somehow we need to make that known for the meeting so that gentlemen can actually hear what's going on a little bit easier there. Betty Jean, did you want to? Okay. All right. Lisa Schroeder. All right, thank you. Carl Schroeder? Charlie spoke to me also. All right. Kim Capes? Charlie spoke. All right. Jane Kerr-Bottom? Charlie spoke to me. All right. Hattie McGriff? All right, and same thing, Hattie, if you just give your name and address when you get up there, and then we'll start you up there.
My name is Hattie McGriff. I live at 580 Skytop Drive, Ocoee, Florida, 34761. I was a little late, so I might have missed this. What is the benefit to the city of Ocoee to annex this into the city? So I would like to get information on that. And then in my second comment is like everyone else, the traffic, and how do we address that, or is that something that has to be addressed with Orange County since they're county roads?
All right, thank you. I think the quick answer, and correct me if I'm wrong on it, but the quick answer is we would then get the tax dollars and the additional funding for things like that. I believe there's some impact fees that we'll probably receive as well. So that, yeah. Did you want to?
I think the owner also requested it, the owner of the property as well.
Yeah, but yeah, and it's close to, and it's adjacent to the city, so McCormick Road is sort of the unofficial borderline between Apopka and Ocoee, so most of the south of Ocoee, south of McCormick is in where the developments are in the city of Ocoee already, and anything north of the north side of McCormick basically is Apopka. So it just keeping with the consistency of everything else on that. That basically is the big benefit for it, and then again the income to the city in the way of taxes, which helps keeps everybody's taxes a little bit lower. So, Francis Diaz, am I pronouncing that right? Yeah, I hope. Sorry. And the same thing, name and address, and then go ahead there.
Hi, my name is Francis Diaz, 2473 Laurel Blossom Circle. This is my first time at one of these, so trying to figure it all out as we go. So I understand we're talking about annexing this property. I'm not sure if we're talking about how we annex this property, or we're talking about whether we should or shouldn't annex the property. I'm 38 years old, 39, I have a wife and a kid, and I have a second kid on the way. And I come from New York City, so I come from a place that is fully congested. And we moved down to Florida, and we enjoy the rural landscaping, boys being able to play in the woods and whatnot. So this is happening, cool. It's right behind me. I live in Forest Trails. We go on the trail all the time and walk it, right? So the questions that came to me were like, from an environmental perspective, in the studies being done by the builder or Orange County or us, the city, or whoever does that, you know, was there analysis for like wildlife and like certain types of trees like cypress or wetlands? And, you know, while there's a requirement to keep 3 trees on per parcel or whatever, you know, is there any type of like, hey, if we tear down this number of acres of trees, we're supposed to plant an equivalent or substitute somewhere else or whatnot? I don't know that, so I'm kind of asking that question from an environmental perspective. Has those things been looked at? Second, I think, and it goes with the previous question asked by the other lady, is from a city's perspective, I get that we are going to have influx of income from property taxes. So just curious, as a resident of Ocoee, what would be the benefits, or what would we see with those additional income tax, or sorry, property taxes revenue? Would we see beautification to the area, or services or benefits? I don't know, so that'd be a good question there. And then the last question that I have is, what do we do as a city, and I don't know, this is just me pondering, are there any protocols where we as a city or people can protect ourselves from like the monopoly builder who continues to just breach in on every single piece of land. Because I think I heard during the presentation that they also made the subdivision right next door. So what's the next one after if we pass this, what's gonna be the next piece of land, right? So those are my 3 questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike, did you want to address the?
Yes, I can go through a number of these pretty quickly. Some of them quickly. I'll start with the most recent. Yeah, there is an arbor code for removal of trees and replacement of trees. The 3 trees on the lot is another standard. The arbor review will be done through the final subdivision plan, when you have the grading plan, and you'll see the roads that are going in, the stormwater retention. The annexation, this is a part of the annexation process. Annexation is stated in state law. There's 3 ways to annex property. Involuntary, and we've done one of those. You have to do a referendum vote of the voting residents of the subdivision. We've done this is the voluntary, where they come to us. They have to go through a series of public hearings and ordinance reads for the annexation. It has to meet criteria such as adjacency. There's a number of benefits, obviously tax and impact fees. Communication tax, the more residents, you get more gas money, gas tax, communication tax fees. Has the city right now, at this early portion, pledged any of the tax money to a certain improvement? No. But for instance, at build-out, this subdivision will have paid $600,000 in park and recreation impact fees. Police and fire, there's a lot of different fees. We feel as a city that this is an enclave that the county shouldn't have to service. We feel that Popka Vineland Road would be our boundary to the east, just as East Crown is on the west. The 429 was originally going to go closer to Stark Lake. 429 doesn't set our boundary, East Crown Point Road does. So we feel everything south of McCormick and between those roadways should be the city proper, and the county shouldn't have to provide services. Upon annexation, the county still gets all their taxes. They just don't get the MSTU for police and fire, because we provide those services. Why the ponds? They've done a low-level amount of engineering. They just kind of put the ponds where the low spots are. That's where you start. The low areas, that's where you put the ponds. That'll be refined in the preliminary and the final subdivision process. Schools, I talked about. Traffic lights, there's several comments on traffic. And there's adopted level of service for daily trips and peak hour, and those are reviewed. There's a set number of trips, and then as we have what's a concurrency management system, as the subdivision McCormick Reserve came in, we plugged those numbers in our concurrency system, and you add those into the average daily trips, because those homes aren't all built out. So in the background, all the subdivisions that are under development, those trips, when they break ground, they are vested for those trips. They're in the background. So the analysis took into account those subdivisions. And it showed 9 trips per single family home. It will add 3,000 trips. During the peak hour, that's 300 something trips, divided by 4 for 15-minute intervals, divided by 15. It adds about 6 trips a minute. If you have a 15-minute threshold, it did not, under Florida state law, if a facility, a transportation facility, in their test, they have to test that. If a transportation facility is already failing by the adopted level of service and number of trips, a new project cannot make them fix it. These trips were determined none of the systems are failing yet, and these trips did not trigger them to fail. If they would have triggered a failure, they would have have to mitigate. The roads will be a 50-foot wide right-of-way is a standard right-of-way. That's a curb, a foot for each curb, 24-foot pavement, that's Highway 50 has 11-foot travel lanes through Ocoee. The road, the pavement will be your typical width, as you see in a normal public road. And it's gonna be a public road, it has to be built to a city standard. That's width, that's type of subbase, base, asphalt thickness, and such. Streetlights on McCormick Road, that is a traffic generation does not trigger when you test a development. That is just a function of Orange County as the owner and maintainer of that road, working on a plan with Duke to put streetlights. We're putting streetlights on Ingram Road, we put some, we're putting some on Roberson Road. Roads that don't have a lot of development, we're more rural, we're putting streetlights. That's a call to the district commissioner, and you work through the Orange County process to get streetlights. A mention of trees. The Arden Park subdivision was a planted pine forest. They had the agricultural exemption for planted pines. So they have the right to cut all the trees. They're all planted pines. That's the bulk of what you're seeing along Ingham Road was the main part of their pine forest. So it wasn't a stripping of all the beauty and majestic trees there, it was a planted pine forest. So our hands are tied under the arbor ordinance because they have the right under agricultural exemption, under their Division of Forestry permit to cut down the trees. But this is a little bit different scenario. But we will look at that. In our next phase, our subdivision plan will have a tree clearing plan for you. And they'll do, depending on the area, they'll provide tree calipers and sizes and numbers of trees they're removing. The buffer zone, there's a number of parks in this subdivision. This park's almost an acre. This park's about 0.88 acres. They have parks throughout. This is just one, that's a 3-acre park. And there's not a requirement in the city's comprehensive plan to buffer residential to residential. So there's not a requirement to have a subdivision wall or fence on any of the boundaries. The subdivision you see, Oak Trail Reserve, Arden Park, they're gated, they're gonna do something for security. And so if the residents wanna fence their backyard, if the subdivision, maybe the developer's not going to, once the subdivision, the HOA is turned over to the residents, they can always put a fence up. The beauty of that is this is a tract, so you don't have to get a permit from 50 lot owners to put a fence up. And we don't know, the next step will determine what this park looks like. It's 3 acres. They've got a number of parks in there. They're not gonna, if they put a soccer field, it's not gonna take up that full square. We don't know exactly what that park is. We'll see that at the next step. The southern entrance, that is there's I can show you that the strip of land under a survey was dedicated to City of Ocoee St. John's as a conservation area wetland. And it was a part of the Kensington subdivision. That's why you see their density is so low, because that was part of their net buildable acres. It's a part of their plat. There's a lot that goes into it. The green space must be kept. Yes, this plan will dictate that the green space is to look and be kept as it is. That is the benefit of having this PD land use plan show you the layout, and perhaps we could have them add in different areas that buffer width. So you see a dimension, it's scaled right now, but it doesn't show those buffer widths. And there's a lot on traffic, and it's not a large traffic generator, and it at the next phase, we will look at the turn lane into the entrances, the radius, the topography, and how do they need a decel lane. It did not trigger a need to widen McCormick Road or lengthen any turn lanes that were out there. The environmental, there was an environmental study provided. It ecological environmental study done. And this gets transmitted to the Florida Division of Wildlife, or whatever they're called now. They will review this environmental report as well and make comments. So that study, the environmental study, has been done. That looks like, I made a note of everyone's comment. Road, horseman, park traffic, look at access, green space, annexation, Arden Park tree removal with the road, streetlights, gated buffer zone with fencing, discuss that, traffic. There's a number of parks. This is not the only, that park that was questioned, it's not the only park in the subdivision. There's more, but we'll look at it. And yes, I can say that the answer for what subdivision's coming next for the city of Ocoee is there's only one piece left, and it's on the corner of Ocoee Road and Clark Road on the west side. I think it's the Woodbury track. It's in the county still. That's the only available property that is residential that can be built. The city has, adjacent to Oak Trail Reserve, the developer, that Oak Trail subdivision was approved in early 2000, and it got vested, and D.R. Horton is now building it out. It got vested for their subdivision, got vested for their school students, and got vested for transportation because they dedicated right-of-way for Ocoee Road expansion, for Clark Road expansion, and they dedicated, you'll see there's a triangle piece of property right now at that intersection of Clark on the north side of Ocoee and Arden Park. That is a future trailhead site for the city. So I think that will help Kensington, or your subdivision on Ocoee in the future when that trailhead park is developed. It'll be a lot more user-friendly than the one in Ingram, that just dirt parking area. Schools, I discussed, it did not trigger a need for a traffic light, and I believe I touched on everyone's sort of issues and comments, and certainly they're bona fide.
All right, thank you. I did get a couple more. So Waylon Strickland. Again, your name and address, and we'll let you speak there, sir.
Waylon Strickland, 3141 Oak Alley Drive, Apopka, 32703. I'm in the Oak Hills subdivision. If anybody's ever driven on McCormick, it is a narrow 2-lane road, okay? It's not very wide. It is not very level at certain parts. Traffic does back up frequently at both ends of this road, you know, well past our entrance to our subdivision area, which is Damon Road, which is right in between your access to your new proposed subdivision. So it's a problem. The other thing that's a problem, which I haven't heard one person mention here, is New Destiny Church is on that corner of Apopka Vineland and McCormick. And they have services with 3, 4, 5 times a week. And traffic is a total nightmare when they let out. Not to mention, when you start having this high a density subdivision come in, no one's going to be able to get out because we have one access, Damon Road. That's our only egress in and out of our subdivision area. Traffic lights was brought up just a few minutes ago, so I'll let that one go. We do have horses, and there is a horse facility down on the other end of Damon Road where people actually ride horses up and down Damon and on McCormick. So I could see that this becoming a problem with them having access to riding horses on that whole area. Turn lanes on McCormick. We have no turn lane in and out of Damon. There's no turn lanes on either end of McCormick. So this is a problem that's going to be made much, much worse by this. As far as the density of this new development, from my eye looking at the way that's drawn, it looks like it's way too dense. I would respectfully request that a third less houses be put in. I don't see how you get 3 trees on a lot that small. Because we had 3 trees on a 3/4 of an acre lot, and they're oak trees, and, you know, that pretty much took up what you had available, along with a septic tank and a house on it. So, anyway, those are my basic concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And last but not least, Paul Smith. All right, and same thing, Paul, if you'll give us your name and address, and we'll let you get started there.
Thank you. My name is Paul Smith. I live at 3125 Oak Alley Drive in Apopka. I'm also in the Oak Hill subdivision. And I just really had a question for clarification purposes. The West Orange Trail that runs along the south border of the property is owned by the Orange County Parks and Recreation Service, to my knowledge. Would the city of Ocoee be annexing that piece of the trail and maintaining it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
As far as I know, we.
Legal description is only the property boundaries, not anything past that property.
Okay. So if it's still owned by Orange County and will remain property of Orange County, then technically the property in question is not contiguous with the city of Ocoee, correct?
A body of water or a road does not create a non-contiguous property.
But it's not technically a road, it's a trail.
Yes, so it doesn't reach the threshold of a public road. So if a public road does not reach that threshold, a trail does not.
Okay.
Maybe does a body of water like Stark Lake or something like that.
Okay, so I was just clarifying that because it was not technically contiguous with the city of Ocoee in that manner. Okay, that's really all I had, just to reemphasize, obviously, what everybody else has stated here, the increase in traffic, and you know that really poses a danger, especially around the school where the kids are and stuff, because it's a nightmare. The kids are crossing the road from south to north on McCormick Road sometimes, so we have an increased traffic pattern for that. But that's all I had, thank you.
Thank you. And I did miss one, Barry Reiner? Sorry about that, I had you in a different group for a different one, so I do apologize.
My name is Barry Ryder. I live at 106 West McCormick Road. I'm immediately adjacent to this property. And we've talked to Miss Austin as part of this. But as we go forward on this thing, the first thing I'd like to say is that what the city sent us is not what we're seeing tonight. So I'd appreciate in the future a little more accurate. I am concerned about the trees. One of our neighbors, Robert Gormican, is McCormick Reserve now. When that plan was presented to the city, all these trees were going to be saved. It was all part of the plan. It was all approved. Halfway into it, they decided they needed to change the slope of the land, and all the trees disappeared. I don't want to see that happen here. As far as the light goes, I know you're beating a dead horse, but the one thing, Commissioner, you're absolutely right that traffic studies don't consider is you come out of McCormick Road, you go south. The school bus has to stop at that railroad crossing. Mm-hmm. The door opens, the lights come on, the traffic backs up. He comes to the light at Clarkona, Ocoee, and Apopka, Vineland. He turns right to go west. He's got to stop at the railroad tracks again. So in the afternoon, there is traffic. I mean, at what would be your northwest corner, that's my 14 acres. When I moved out there 20-something years ago, I was the little guy. I'm the big guy now with my 14 acres left. I just want to see the density lowered a little bit. There's just not the ability of McCormick Road to handle that. The Clarkona Elementary School right now is a training school. I have spoken to Commissioner, and we've talked about Commissioner Moore when she was the school board person. That's now a training school, but it will be an overflow school at any time that the school district needs to build a new elementary. It was temporarily Molly Ray. It was temporarily those. And when those people come to this area, it's an elementary school that mama is having to bring her kids to a new school, and some of them come on school buses, but most of it's mama dropping the kids off to the new school especially, and that exacerbates traffic tremendously that you'll never ever see on a traffic count that's done it at the times that they do the traffic counts. And I'll say one more thing. I had the great honor a number of years ago to be able to sit in a seat that was provided to me by the United States Navy. Carter Field is designated as an emergency landing strip. You have two sets of rules in the air, visual flight rules and instrument flight rules. If you're flying VFR, you are not under a air traffic control tower. If you are in trouble, you go to your JEPs, you go to your Garmin JEPs, and you look for the nearest place. Right now in northwest Orange County, that's Carter Field. I don't know, it's been a long time since I sat in that front seat, but I don't know how long it takes the FFA to update the JEPs and how long the JEPs are there. But if you haven't updated your JEPs, or it's not in the software, and you're in trouble, you're looking for a spot. And if that spot says Carter Field is it, that's where you're going. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was one of the reasons I asked the question on about the FAA being involved, because as you say, that that's where you're going to see is an emergency landing location right now, and we have to make sure it's. Yeah.
As recently as 2 days ago, they were practicing takeoff touch and goes on Carter Field. The Orange County Sheriff's Department uses it all the time for training. So,
Yeah. All right. Did I miss anybody else that wanted to speak on this issue? Okay, if so, come on up and I'll take that form from you too there. Okay. Yeah. All right.
My name is Donald Lunko. I live at 203 Piney Woods Road, Apopka, also in the Oak Hill subdivision. Appreciate the time to speak. I listened to everything. I've made a couple of notes here on a couple things that I saw that weren't specifically addressed. I know that this is a preliminary site plan, and as was mentioned, it can change with the approval of the city once the annexation is approved and all of that. My only concerns, if this does go forward, when those potential changes come through, and they almost certainly will, because this, this is very preliminary, it likely does not take into account the elevations and everything on the site, and there are flood zones on the site, so there's going to have to be areas filled to be able to be built on that are currently within this plan. The open space along the perimeter, primarily along the perimeter, if it's possible, I would like the city to somehow incorporate a requirement that only minimal changes can be made to that perimeter open space. As it is now, that actually is a pretty decent buffer to, as was mentioned earlier, to hide the community, if you will, as you drive around it. But if this site requires a lot of cut and fill to balance and to fill in the low areas, there's a potential that a lot of those trees could be removed. It was kind of touched on by an earlier respondent, but it would be nice if it could be mandated that the perimeter trees be left as intact as possible. Also that the size, roughly the size and area of that space, I know that the layout itself can change, but if the city could kind of control how close to the border of the property that the homes could go. And also, I know was mentioned earlier on that the city's density for this particular site would be 4 per acre. And as was mentioned by the Polis and Bennett rep for the developer, they're looking at 1.97. I'd also like to request that the city somehow stipulate that the 1.97 or something very close to that would be the final density if changes were allowed in the future, and not suddenly come back a couple of months from now and be looking at 4 homes per acre. Based on now, we're looking at 1.97. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay. With that, anybody else that I missed? All right. Seeing that, did you want to respond to any of the new questions there? Especially because I'm assuming with the PUD that basically says you're tied into, this is your buffer area, this is your...
Yeah, the number of lots,
your number of lots and all that. So I think you'll get that tie-in that you're asking for, where they tell them they can't really change it without having a major
Amendment.
change.
Yes, and if there wasn't, yes, so the plan unit development, this plan will lock in the density and the number of lots and the buffers. They will have a chance to see it if it moves forward at the preliminary, or if they combine them, the preliminary final. And they can see it at if it goes 2 steps, preliminary and final, they'll be able to see both of them, because the final plan comes back to the city commission. The preliminary comes through this board and the city commission in a public hearing with all the noticing requirements that of ad and signage and 300-foot notice and such, so.
Thank you. Question, Robert? You? Well, come on up to the podium just so they have it on record there.
This is for me into the zoning, okay?
Yeah.
Are we gonna have another meeting once this all goes through, or our say? Is this our final say?
No, the city commission meeting, which will be Tuesday of next week, April 16th, will be another public hearing, and it'll be the same presentation and all of that.
I understand, but as it goes through, okay, development.
Yes, so then, yes, good. And then it will come back for either adoption in a public hearing with the city commission.
Okay.
Then the subdivision process starts with preliminary subdivision. That'll go through the same process, planning and zoning and city commission.
And you
So
take all this in consideration we talked
Yes.
about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. With that, I'll invite the applicant to come on back up and let you respond there to the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Kathy Hadaway with Polis and Bennett. I'm going to be very brief. I know the hour is getting late. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. One is the perimeter buffers. I mean, the developer is committed to these perimeter buffers and to creating an environment where those trees around the edges of the property are left in place, and the property is, the development is indeed tucked inside the property and essentially not visible from the outside roads. Access we've heard about. We really just don't see a path forward to the south, because the developer doesn't control any of that property that would allow for an access to the south. And we've talked about the limitations both from an elevation perspective to access to Apopka Vineland on the east side. On the West Orange Trail, I just do want to point out on that southern park that you'll notice that the park area is actually the farthest distance from the development, the residential community to the south. I mean, that's where that park is located, actually is as far away as it could be on the property from those adjacent neighbors. And the closest residential lot on that southern boundary is probably at least 100 feet from the West Orange Trail. With regard to the benefits to the city, as I mentioned, this neighborhood, because of its variety of lot sizes, it's going to provide housing that's for first-time homebuyers in the affordable range, all the way up to higher. It'll probably be, they could range from the mid-200s up into the high 300s. And housing of this type provides a net fiscal benefit to the city and actually helps the city by actually subsidizing the homes in the city that are not valued at that price point. So the benefits to the city, in addition to all the fees that it has been discussed that the project would have to pay as well. And lastly, traffic is just something that is challenging. It's a difficult. None of us like to sit and wait to get out of our neighborhoods. I do it every morning in mine, and I can certainly appreciate that. But the developer will have to pay for any mitigation if their development causes any roads to fail. That would be a developer's responsibility to contribute to the mitigation for that. And unfortunately, I know that a lot of people don't put a lot of faith in traffic studies, but it's really the process that we have and the process that we work under. And so we'll continue to work with the city and your staff to provide any type of operational improvements or other mitigation that would be required for the project. We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais. Any other comments or questions from anyone?
May I pose a question to
Yes.
the applicant?
Sure.
Thank you. Is it possible, a lot of the concerns we've heard here tonight have focused on creating an access to the development from the south. Is it possible to provide that, any access from the south into the development?
Commissioner, unfortunately, it is not. We just do not see a path forward to create an access to the south. We've looked at it. We've had discussions with, I think with your staff, I know we've had discussions with Commissioner Moore from Orange County, expressed a comment about that, and there's just no way to access a road through there.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question regarding a gentleman, I believe, made a statement about the traffic safety and pedestrian and conflict between pedestrian and automobile in the area, particularly as the trail comes into and crosses Apopka Vineland. I guess it would be Clarkona at that point. McCormick, I'm sorry, McCormick. So has pedestrian safety been accommodated for through this plan, or does that come later?
Off-site pedestrian safety is not a test, a level of service test that is provided for in Florida law for a level of service for large-scale comprehensive plan amendments. And pedestrian safety, other than the safe routes to schools, which is not a law, it's a program, is not a off-site adjacent. That would be a road, that'd be an improvement within the right-of-way off-site. That is not a test of the transportation review.
Okay, so may I repeat it so I
Yes.
make sure I understand what you're saying too? That's more of a traffic engineering, road planning, design
Yes,
issue,
yes.
not a development issue?
Yes, so it's not tested or looked at.
Okay.
Okay. Additional questions? All right. Hearing none, we do need 3 motions for this. And so the first one is we would need to have a motion for recommendation on the annexation of the property. So,
Well, Mr. Chairman, I've heard several people here who have decades of experience in the area here talk about the fact that something's coming here. It's going to happen. And it seems to be a matter of control and regulation. Certainly, the city of Ocoee cannot control or regulate any property development that's outside of its boundaries. And to that end, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the annexation, number AX-09-18-77, CLRM Planned Unit Development.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, we have a motion by Member Wunderlich. We have a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, that carries. The next motion would be a motion for the large-scale am I going out of order? I just got to make sure
Yes,
that.
that's right.
The large-scale comprehensive plan is the next one. So that would be the next motion we would need.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend approval of the large-scale comprehensive plan amendment for the Orange County Rural Settlement, comprehensive plan amendment, Orange County Rural Settlement 1 to 5 to City of Ocoee Low Density Residential for the CLRM Plan Unit Development. I don't have the number.
Right. All right. Let's see. That would be that CPA 2018008, I believe is the number on that.
Thank you.
All right. Having a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. So we have a motion by Vice Chair Williams. We have a second by Member Millen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carries. All right, and that leaves the third motion, which is for the rezoning to a planned unit development.
I'll make a motion to recommend rezoning to PUD and PUD land use, project number RZ-18-09-15.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that, sir.
All right, we have a motion by Member Mellon, a second by Member Wunderlich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and so it will be sent on to the commission as a
This recommendation will
recommendation.
be provided to the city commission at the transmittal hearing and first reading of ordinances for April 16th, 6:15 p.m. in these chambers.
All righty, and with that, I know some of you may want to leave at this point, so I'm going to give a 5-minute recess, just so those of you who do want to, we'll be interrupting the next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that.
Yeah. No problem. It was a long one. We needed. just need Mr. Rummer. Oh, there he is. He's in the back. All right. All right. So, Mr. Rummer? Okay. Can we get you back there, and we'll restart bring the meeting back to order. And just because I've got people who want to speak on the Ocoee Village one, and that seems to be the only other one that I have speakers on, speaker requests on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that one up to next, instead of making you sit through a few others there. So what I'd like to do is move that we look at the Ocoee Village Center, which is going to be a large-scale comprehensive plan and a rezoning to PUD as well. So with that, Mr. Rummer will let you take the floor.
Okay, this is similar but a little bit different. This property is within the city of Ocoee's limits, so there's not an annexation, but this is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment from low-density residential to high-density residential and commercial. So just two motions today. The property is located, there's 3 parcels, north side of Claricone-Ocoee Road, existing triangle, and then this piece on the south side of Claricone-Ocoee and east of Lakewood, identified here. It's all planted pines, and I'll get my staff report out so I can read. It's over 10 acres of land, so it's a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment. The properties and real close properties adjacent to the 429 West Road interchange. The amount of acres is 73, and the property is located within an overlay, the State Road 429 interchange character area is over a large portion of this property. That character area covers property and these properties to the west. I will have a presentation as well from Peter Kosicki with the City of Ocoee. He's our urban design reviewer, and he's going to talk about an element of the character area and one of the proposed uses. The proposed uses on the property, so the land use presently is low-density residential, allows 4 dwelling units an acre, so all single family. So you've got this piece adjacent to the 429 and north of Claricone-Ocoee Road, adjacent to the Forest Lake Golf Course, that right now you can build single-family homes on. The same with the other parcels. This is what the proposed land use is, changing it to high-density residential, commercial, and high-density residential. That is to facilitate a planned unit development which would afford on the very northern end, a 316-unit multifamily apartment development up here, which is adjacent to the golf course, 429. It is ringed in the front with commercial and a proposed hotel location. So you have commercial along Claricone-Ocoee Road and the apartments behind it. That's why you have the high density. The city's high density residential affords up to 16 dwelling units an acre. In the character overlay, if you do some upgraded features, you can get some density bonus as well. Then you have a ring of commercial on the south side of Claricone-Ocoee Road, and you have another residential. This is a townhome development, a gated townhome development to the south. They're proposing, as I said, 316 apartments on the north. There is on the townhomes would be, I don't see it, we've changed the number of 196 townhomes, and then commercial, which would be retail, restaurant, and such. The plan, real quickly to kind of show you, includes, if I can find a better picture, I'll go back up here. It creates a new alignment for North Lakewood Avenue. Presently, you come up to this point, stop, make a right, and there's a signal at this intersection. Under this plan, the Lakewood would be realigned with a curve, a roundabout at Fuller's Crossroad and Lakewood Avenue in lieu of four-way stop sign or signalization. There's a large amount of open space, the public park aspect, which is required under the overlay. It requires some vacation of roads, portion of roads to make this work, and the applicant's going to go into sort of some of that work. The plan has, and Peter will expand upon the layout of the apartments and the retail. I'll discuss after that the townhome development a little bit, and the applicant will expand upon it. We have elevations of townhomes. The applicant is providing, and he has in his presentation, a sense of place that he's going to try to create in this area with wall features and amenities. And I don't want to forget to discuss this, but we'll have a development agreement with this project, which has a list of permitted uses, prohibited uses, and also a requirement that limits the amount of residential until the threshold of commercial is achieved. We've experienced this on a number of these similar mixed-use projects that has an apartment element with commercial, and the apartment goes in, and the commercial doesn't go in, and we get a charter school. Or like we have at Park Place, we still have 2.5 acres of vacant land in front of the apartment. So we require a threshold level commercial, non-residential, in order to achieve more residential density to overcome those issues. We have a long presentation. I'm going to let Peter come up and talk about the character area and how the multifamily aspect in that ring of commercial meets the intent of the overlay in many areas. And I'll come back and discuss some more. With that, I'll invite Peter Kosicki, urban planner for City of Ocoee, to come up, and he's got a presentation.
Good late evening, everybody. I know everybody wants to go home, so I'll try to make this as brief as possible and try to gauge your interest as much as possible, too. All right, so as you know, this is the Ocoee Village Center. I'm going to be talking about the multifamily aspects and the design quality and urban design quality of it. So as Mike mentioned earlier, this is part of the Interchange Village character area. So we do have increased standards for development in this area, from a planning, horizontal use perspective, and also from an architecture and aesthetics perspective. So we're really trying to create a strong sense of place in this area. So this is going to be different from the vast majority of Ocoee. It's going to be more akin to what's going to be happening downtown and in our CRA areas around the city. So we're looking for a very nice sense of development in this area. So this is the overall development plan, master plan that's listed in our books. So it shows a traditional town-oriented planning. We have higher density towards Ocoee. We have lower density that kind of fades out towards the southwest there with single-family homes. Notice that everything is rear-loaded. We have parking towards the back, townhomes with parking in the back, preserving our streetscape for pedestrians and to keep it cleaner aesthetically. This is an image that's an image of an ideal streetscape within our interchange village. It's a true mixed-use area with pedestrian-oriented streetscape, mixed-use, living on top, retail, offices on the bottom. So we have 4 development themes within the interchange village. We have our creating a livable transportation network, a strong sense of place, mixed-use and multi-use development in a robust public realm. This is the master plan that's proposed from the developers within the area. This is the multifamily area specifically, and Mike kind of talked about the overall development a little bit earlier. There's, as you mentioned earlier, there's 316 luxury apartment units that are proposed of 14 acres. It nets to be about, or it grosses to be about 21 units per acre. They're 5-story buildings. And then this is the master plan that's listed in our design guidelines in that exact area. So notice that there is a retail area that's parallels their development towards the front of Carcona Ocoee. What is different though is the retention that they're proposing in the back. In the ideal version here of the master plan, a road, pedestrian-oriented streetscape bisects the area north of Carcona or Ocoee. Parking's all in the back there. This is a rendering of the proposed development, and the developers will speak on this a little bit later. Now, there are 7 design principles in addition to the 4 development themes within the character area master plan for Interchange Village. Argue that 3 of those 7 design principles are being met. There are others that could be met, but we don't have the architecture to make that determination yet. Principle number 1 that argue is being met is the site improvements should promote pedestrian activity, provide an active-oriented, pedestrian-oriented street edge along public sidewalks. So the developer is proposing a 10-foot sidewalk and multi-use trail through the center spine, that center entrance there, and then sidewalks throughout. So it's creating ample opportunity for walking, pedestrian-oriented activity. Principle number 2 that I argue is being met is site improvements should be designed to enhance an overall sense of place. So they're using some traditional town-oriented principles by building the buildings close to the street and creating a defined edge there, and then terminating access with the clubhouse to the far north end of the development. It's a principle they've been using for a very long time to create a sense of place and visual interest, creating a node at the end of a long street there. So principle number 3 that they're meeting is reducing the visual impact of parking. So if you notice, they're placing the parking in the back. Obviously, there's still lots of parking because they still have to meet the demands of the renters there. So we're asking for a permitted parking ratio of 1.5 spaces per unit. They're proposing 1.7 spaces per unit. And I would say because this is the intent of the 1.5 spaces per unit is for a true mixed-use area within that same vertical space, that the 1.5 isn't entirely applicable, just because you have people coming and going at really the same time of day versus a true mixed-use area. You have people coming at all times of the day, and so you can reduce your overall parking footprint. So this is going back to the multifamily. We've worked with the developer through multiple renditions, probably 5 to 7 different renditions, coming to this proposal where it's more of a pedestrian-oriented developments as opposed to a garden-style apartment complex where the apartments are essentially scattered throughout and kind of a random pattern. But here we're trying to create an organized pattern oriented towards the pedestrian and creating a more walkable area, and really just trying to hide that parking in the back as much as we can, and creating a strong sense of place by having defined edges. Also, which should also be taken into account, is along the eastern edge, the apartments are facing the golf course, the Forest Lake Golf Course there to the east there. So they're just taking advantage of that amenity, and that's why that's not a traditional grid network. It's supposed to be according to the master plan, it's supposed to be part of a traditional grid network, but of course, we always have to alter the site plan to fit the context of the site there, so.
In a true urban setting, which I would draw your attention to, would be our Community Redevelopment Agency, Target Area 1. Target Area 1 is located McGuire and 50, where the old Colony Hotel, that's Target Area 1. And then under the character area, the Plant Street character area, which is at Plant and Franklin, the 429. Those two areas, all of our overlays, that's where we look for density to support mixed use. In those areas, I would say those two, we would really look at density residential developments with a lower density, 150 to 200, maybe 225 at the most, type of dwelling unit count. Also look at brick and mortar type residential development on top of retail, first floor retail, then you have apartments on top. This is still in a suburban area. You have the golf course around that. So we did not apply that type of architectural detail to the building. So they're not required to be brick and mortar as we would, as I've told many people that are looking to develop in those two target areas, the character area and the target area. With respect to the townhomes, the idea of the overlay, if I go up to an earlier slide, is the character area, is to provide access and create blocks and create through points for development, for pedestrian, for mobility, multi-mobility type of travel, and utilizing open space and public open space within that. You can see here, this townhome development meets the intent in many ways. It is private, it will be gated. They will be providing a public access from the subdivision to the east that presently, I'm going to get out of this presentation and go back to mine. These residents have to, there's not a north-south road. These residents come out to near Adair, come up to get to Claricone-Ocoee Road. They will be able to connect through here and travel west without having to get on Claricone-Ocoee Road, and will be able to traverse south along Lakewood Avenue. So they're providing that transportation network. Now, it's not, as a character area, kind of envision multiple locations that kind of tied into the west. This is providing one location. It's providing a public park. It's not a part of the subdivision. It's not a part of the subdivision's open space. It is a public park. And then there's a large sidewalk and trail connection going down the road. So with this corner of the property, as it is gated, it has created sort of the block structure that the overlay looks for. It meets the intent in many ways, not 100%. The subdivision is located within the city of Ocoee's utility service area, and the subdivision, the development will be required to run water and sewer up through this new road to provide to these development. The developer is proposing to upgrade those lines to be able to provide the capacity for future development in this character area, and the ability to provide crossroads, cross-access for these residents. So as this gets accumulated and developed, hopefully in one phase, you have access, you're not shut off to the public road, and you can, in a pedestrian fashion, bicycle or walk and do some shopping without having to go out on the main road. character area calls for residential density. And the one aspect of the multifamily that makes it supportive by staff is the layout, as Peter touched on. And also the multifamily is really limited in the number of 3-bedroom units. It's primarily 1 and 2 bedroom. It's that millennial type of price point and what they're looking for as a type of renter. A sense of place will be made. He has a better slide than I do of showing you the wall along Claricone, Ocoee, and how it forms on Lakewood and this new drive to the north. So you know you're in a distinct development and it creates a character area. That's what the character area is trying to do. We feel like, as Peter said, the apartments meet 3 of 7. The townhouses meet a number. The commercial does. They are proposing, I will say, we are locking in a lot for a future hotel. The transportation trips on West Road don't necessarily afford to have one now, but 429 does, and the benefit of having a hospital nearby, the new one in Apopka, will help. You will have general retail and restaurants. There is a proposed gas station on this corner with a limitation, like the racetrack gas station on 50 by Bluford has all 18 fueling positions in a row. This requires it to be stacked so it doesn't have that big presence and look like a big aircraft carrier out there along the road. There's elements of this development that the developer is not requesting any incentives, any impact fee credits. It's all public infrastructure that will be built and paid for. The city doesn't need to incentivize apartments. We're not going to incentivize apartments. However, one aspect of this development that staff is going to stick to is we're going to work with the attorney. We want this plan. We are supportive of this plan as it is, the apartment layout, the roads, the amenities that the developer is going to tell you about. Any variation, we're not in support. So it's not let's get it entitled and then, oh, shucks, didn't work out. I have the apartments, let me change the apartment layout to a garden apartment, change the units. It's going to be strictly, we are okay with this development. We say it meets many of the elements of the overlay. It creates the opportunities for the west to really develop with the water and sewer and upgraded road. It provides a function. The traffic study indicated that a signal or a stop sign is needed at this intersection here. We looked at it and said a roundabout will function better, and the plan indicates a roundabout in that location. With that, they're providing cross-access to these residents so they can traverse and take opportunities without having to go out along Claricone, Ocoee Road. He's going through the same test as the last project. He's got to show level of service. We send it to the state. It gets reviewed by the state. It gets reviewed by Orange County, Apopka. But really hinging my support on this plan and no deviation from it. Townhomes, 2-car garage, the open space, the parks, the amenities, the sense of place they're creating with the walls you'll see in their presentation. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right, so before we open the public hearing, bring it up to the dais and questions.
Now, is this a threshold then, the apartments? Threshold building being over 4 stories tall?
You have to
Curiosity.
You'll have to ask I'm not sure. They'll answer that when they come up. Good question.
I have a question about the overlay in general. Is that appropriate?
Yes.
Because-
We adopted the overlay by ordinance.
Okay.
So it's not a goal, it's in the land development code. So
Oh, well,
yes,
that's good.
you are a review reviewing these based off the comprehensive plan for the large scale, and you're also looking at land development code issues, yes.
Okay. So my question is, with, considering its proximity to the 429 and the commercial property, what are the prohibitions, or if any, or instructions regarding billboards, signage, and possible even cell towers? Are they prohibited? Are they?
Okay. Billboards are prohibited within
Okay.
City of Ocoee.
Okay.
Cell towers, your normal cell tower is located on a parcel, and there's a process. We have areas which limit the height of a cell tower, whether it's camouflage. Now, these new communication towers that are located in the right-of-ways, there's no regulations on those. We have a couple in the City of Ocoee, and you don't know they're there. Those could be located, but again, or not again, but if it's on Ocoee, if it's on Clarecone Ocoee Road, that's an Orange County right-of-way use permit. Lakewood would be anywhere internal, would be City of Ocoee.
Okay.
And then if he had another question, I forgot it.
It was generally
Signage,
about
so
signage.
it has to meet signage. We will be bringing back in May, Land Development Code cleanup to incorporate the requirements of the character areas and the downtown. And in that will be signage. So they do have to meet our signage criteria.
Okay.
What's not shown in what's not afforded for in our current sign code is when you have these buildings that are up on the road, they want signage on the road, but the parking's in the rear, they also need signage in the rear. So Peter's been working on signage plan, and we're gonna bring some signage criteria to you.
Thank you.
Additional questions?
Yes, it just seems jarring that a urban level, high density development like this would pop up right in the midst of a low density surrounding areas.
It's a urban light. This character area is an urban light, yes. So you're correct. So that's why there's not a requirement to have the density on top of retail. On the other side of the 429, you have a suburban townhome development, Fort Greens at Forest Lake. You have a traditional garden apartment community. You have suburban public shopping center, so.
Typically, I've seen more a gradual transition from low density to medium
Right.
density.
Well, in that transition, we're adjacent to the 429. So that transition would go from west to east to where you have Forest Lake Estates and those single-family homes. And you have here, these homes are older, they're smaller lot sizes, smaller living areas, and you're transitioning to this 429 and then an economic center. This is, I failed to mention, this is a proposed location for a second grocery store. They're not bringing, they do have their commercial broker here, so I think they're bringing to the table is a racetrack gas station. That's all I know right now, besides the townhomes and the apartments. And so.
Your reference to McGuire and Route 50 intersection and the development there, it just seems that this is much more intense than what it is even going on at McGuire and 50.
Well, what you're seeing in McGuire and 50 right now is the two buildings up on the road. Everything behind it is different property owners, and there's a plan that we're holding to. We talk to people at least bi-weekly and have to discuss the stringent requirements of that, and we're gonna hold true to those requirements. We could have had 3 apartment communities there already. We could have had piecemeal commercial retail strip. That's not what that is intended.
Thank you.
Just a couple additional. I'm not sure where the property ends because you're getting close to the West Orange Trail there. I mean, the
West Orange Trail runs through here in this way.
Okay, yeah. Where it comes behind the golf course, does it come to that at any point? Like, should we be looking at a connection, or is it just totally out of the picture?
Connection to the West Orange Trail?
Yeah, over by the golf course, because I know behind the golf course.
Yeah, it runs up this way and goes around.
Okay, so it's too far out,
Yes.
okay. Second question there, what's the speed now on Lakewood? Is that a 35 or 45?
No, 25, I know it's 25 down in the Ocoee part, it might be 35, 40.
Okay, because I'm
up here.
just wondering, since you're now basically putting homes on either side of it, and with the bike lane and all
The current
that.
use is Old Ford's homes as well.
Yeah.
So you're not, it wasn't agriculture like the previous case.
Right.
You know, so it could have 4 dwelling units an acre here.
Right.
Without any public hearings, you know what I'm saying?
Right, I guess my concern just is, now that I'm putting homes on either side and we're changing Lakewood, which is basically gonna go through the middle of the subdivision.
Yes.
I
What
just wanna
you'll
make
see-
sure that
Yes.
we have good traffic patterns as
Right.
far as speed goes, so that we don't have kids getting hit on their bike because,
Yeah, I thought I put the plan in here, but you can't see, this is a color-coded plan.
Yeah.
But perhaps the applicant has a better slide to show you the width of the road, this width of the sidewalks that will go in. There will be plenty of, there's actually green space and a linear type park through here. That'll kind of satisfy some of those questions.
okay.
And that's another aspect of, man, we're reviewing this, and we've discussed this for probably a year, close to a year. When you see what Lakewood is, and it's going to really open up, and
Right.
it creates that sense of place. So we'll give them that opportunity.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, because I just want to make sure, because I've never been a fan of the bicycle paths in the road. I have argued against that at a number of occasions, and most of the time DOT has told me, well, you know, too bad.
Yeah, they require the 7-foot bike lanes on
Yeah,
the state road system.
because I would much prefer the wider sidewalk and the kids on the sidewalk riding their bikes than actually having a bike lane.
The bike lanes add 14 foot in width to the pavement of the road, which extends pedestrian crossing times. So it is beneficial to get them off the road, and he's providing significant sidewalks to
Yeah.
attain that.
Yeah, because that would be the one thing, because like I said, I was never a fan of those. I did have a friend who, well, the old joke is when he first called me on it, I asked him how he was doing. He said, I'm doing fine now, but I was riding my bike when I was hit by a boat, and it's okay, my dentist is taking care of me. And yeah, you know, I said to him, you want to repeat that and so I can understand it? And basically what he was doing, he was riding on one of those bike lanes, and the guy was trailering a boat, and the boat swerved and hit him. Broke a couple ribs and a few other things, and his fiance happened to be his dentist also, so his dentist was taking care of him. So it was sort of you know, he had a good sense of humor about it, but I'm just not, like I said, not a big fan of those roadway bike lanes, especially when it's kids that we're looking at. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I am going to open up the public, oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, let's bring up the applicant. I'm sorry about that, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's bring up the applicant and introduce yourself and name and address, and if you have anything to add there, sir.
Yeah, good evening. For the record, my name is Richard Wolfarth. I'm with the Wolfarth Consulting Group. I'm at 246 North Westmont Drive in Altamont Springs, Florida. I want to, first of all, before we can get started, is to thank Mike and Peter and the rest of the staff. As Mike has said, we've gone around on this. I mean, it's tough when you look at a node like Clerico and Ocoee, the 429. But the one thing that I think hopefully Peter will concur, and Michael, is that, you know, the idea of commercial and higher densities typically correspond to higher roadway patterns like the 429 and like Clerico and Ocoee. We have a 4-lane divided highway, and then we go up to a limited access highway. right through the middle of Ocoee. And we think that, though, brings benefit to the project that we're trying to propose. But what we're looking at is, as we got into it, and I wish I had some of the earlier plans we had come up with. You know, Peter brought some very good points up, as Michael, and we went back and forth, and you know, we had a few more townhouses where we now have a city park. We had a little more pavement where we now have green space. And I think I'll go through this very quickly because obviously it's getting a little bit late. And I'll like to stay around for answer any questions from you or any of the residents. Clearly, location map, here we are at the corner of 429 and Claricona, Ocoee. The master development plan has 316 apartments, 196 townhomes. Our commercial uses vary, but as Mike said, part of the negotiations as we went through this is, in addition to the brief descriptions up there, we now have come up with a very comprehensive of allowable and non-allowable product that can go within the commercial area. And we've made some strong limitations. The other thing, because of the city's position in the past, where developments, the apartments get built, the townhouses get built, and now we have strips of commercial that are just vacant. We put some limitations on how many apartments, how many townhouses we can build until we reach certain thresholds in the commercial development. The redevelopment catalyst, which we think is a very important part of this project. If you look out at the area today, the area to the east has been around quite some time, and to the west is primarily large tracts, many of them vacant, some mobile homes. And we feel that what we're hoping to bring, in addition to our development, is a catalyst that will help take the plan that was done by the city a few years back and actually get it introduced and get it started. So we in the design, we looked at how do we provide additional capacity in the water and sewer system, in the reuse lines, in the roadway capacities, in the walkways, in the bikeways. And we think all of that will entertain and push the redevelopment of this area, which we think will be positive for the city of Ocoee. Walkability and open space, again, you'll see as we get through the presentation, we think we've addressed, and we have looked at the issue of getting onto the West Orange Trail, and we actually have 3 points of access that we'll highlight here in a moment. The project benefits we'll talk about, what it does for the city, but you know, in highlighting it, it's a very significant increase in the tax base of the city. It will be a very significant increase in the taxes collected by the city of Ocoee over the next few years. And we think we're relatively consistent. As Mike said, the problem with overlay districts and plans that get developed years earlier is that, you know, this is urban, it is a little suburban, so it's sort of a mix in between. So Peter helped us on sort of coming together to get something that was meeting halfway in the middle, where we hit the intents that were there. Some of them because, you know, when you have a beautiful golf course, the best thing you could do as a developer is you want for people to be able to look at them. These are only 4-story buildings. We don't have any 5-story buildings. So, and there will be elevators in these buildings, and there'll be internal breezeways. We do have elevations that we'll be getting into, Michael, here very shortly, and it is following a more of an urbanish look. It's not your 3-story walk-up breezeway apartments that I guess, you know, you've all seen a lot of those here within the city. Approximately $135 million will be added to the base for the city of Ocoee. And I think I was being conservative when I did that. And that will generate, at the time of build-out, about $750,000 in annual income to the city. That does not include county, school board, all the other uses. There's 3 connections to the trail. And as was pointed out, obviously there's one trailhead over here, there's one over here, and there's a further one back over here. Now, I know Commissioner Keller, you mentioned about the bikeways. Fortunately or unfortunately, what's one of the things that I looked at was the fact that currently there is a bikeway on both sides of Claricona, Ocoee. We felt that, you know, it probably made sense, and we kept that bikeway on our realignment of North Lakewood. However, what we also did is we have an internal linear park that runs all along the road, and in that park is a 10-foot bike path. So in addition to all that, and you'll see in here that we've taken that linear park to take advantage of the fact that from the road to our townhouses, we've separated now with the linear park. We added a large water body, so we've pushed the houses away from that road, which we think for the benefit of the residents and the benefits of the people who live in the general area. As we set up there, the bike lanes, walkway, pathways will give you the access, and internally we have 6-foot, 8-foot, and as Peter pointed out, we have a 10-foot walkway coming out of our apartment site so people can get directly to the commercial and also get onto the walkways and bikeways. The park, which I'll show you in a moment, is going to be dedicated to the city, but not only dedicated, we will be responsible for improving that park. This is a rendering. What we're doing here is we're looking at the roundabout, which is at the southern end of the property. Now, as I know from the last presentation, the one thing that became loud and clear is a concern over traffic. So as the other applicant said, we did a very detailed traffic study. We provided it to the city, who was reviewed by the city's traffic planner, and we came up with a few deficiencies. One deficiency was over at Ocoee, Apopka Road, and Fuller's Cross. And from a developer's point of view, very fortunate for us because the city already had in their program and under construction the improvements to that intersection. So that intersection is being taken care of by the graces of the city, and it really took care of one of our issues. The second issue was here at the southern end, and that was where Fuller's Cross and the existing North Lake would come together. And that roadway was deficient. Four-way stop was our original presentation or proposal. The city planner, along with the traffic engineer for the city, came back and they gave us two options. They said, we don't think in the long run, 10 years, 20 years from now, that's going to solve our problem. What we want to see is either a traffic signal or a roundabout. We looked at both options and felt that the roundabout we thought added, going back to the suburban and urban look, was a better solution given the location. We looked at the traffic, at the improvements for the roundabout are as good, if not better, than a traffic signal. So we put that in there, and then that is also part of what we will be doing. That's our responsibility, and as much as I wanted to look to Mike and say, hey, how about some traffic impact fees, we didn't. So that will be something we will be building as part of our development. The entrance, this is the southern entrance here to the townhouses. And so again, what you notice here is there's the linear park coming down, there's the walkway within the park itself, tying into our sidewalks on both sides. Within all of our communities, both sides of the road will have sidewalks. Oh yeah, I deal with some British people, and unfortunately, I think I have to tell them that we drive on the right side, not the left. In fact, next time he's driving, I'll be sure I'm driving, not him. Okay, this is a view of our pedestrian walkway. So again, what we're highlighting throughout all of this presentation, you'll see that we have sidewalks connecting to walkways all the way through the community. So no one will have to walk on any of the streets. In most cases, they'll be able to get their bicycles, ultimately, unfortunately or fortunately, to that 7-foot bike path along Claricone, Ocoee. But, as I said before, from that point, we have 3 good connections to get there. So we think it'll be a big addition, again, for our residents. Now, going back to North Lakewood Avenue, where we were talking about before, we think that this project will be an impetus for the whole development of this area. The water is currently located south of Fuller's Cross Road. We'll be extending it all the way through the community and up to so the fire protection for the residents that hopefully will start building to the west of us will be provided for the firefighting. Additionally, and it's a lot of because of the gravity, it flows downhill, and so the property on the townhouses drops dramatically from the west or east to the west, and from the north to the south. So the ideal location for us to put our pump station is right there next to North Lakewood. So it not only services this 75 acres, it will be deep enough that a lot of the people to the west of us will be able to get into our lift station by gravity. And we're upgrading the pump station so where they can just tie onto us. And we're actually putting sewer in the new revised road so they can just cut right onto their project. So again, another benefit of where things going. Now, if you look at that intersection right now, when you come out of Claricone, Ocoee, you drive in at that signal and you make a hard right. Not very conducive to traffic. So what we've done now is we've straightened it out with curves. We've gone back and forth not only with Mike, but also with the traffic planner and with the county to make sure that we can maximize the amount of traffic that we get in. The end result was when we did all these improvements, we believe the road, even with our units out there, will be functioning better than it does today. The roundabout we have already mentioned to you, and then the extensive bike paths and pathways. Now this is another look. We're now at the over here on North Lakewood. we're looking into the city park. Now, the city park is going to be a relatively passive park in many respects. However, we are going to build a lake in the middle and be able to put a walkway around it. We're looking at providing multiple locations throughout the park to have barbecue areas with tables so that people can use them in the neighborhood for some other will be given to the city, however the city would regulate that, where they can do picnics, birthday parties, etc. But as Mike said before, this is 2nd Avenue. So 2nd Avenue now, all the residents to the east of us will be able to come right down here. They'll be able to go, and this is where the service station will be. Or they can come out, but the other real benefit is that they will be able to come out on our road at the existing traffic signal. So all these residents now don't have to fight trying to get out an unsignalized area when they want to go to the west. They can come out and go here to that. This was taken into account in our traffic analysis. And you know, we have quite a bit of movements. We are going to add the additional signal out there to take care of the traffic from the north, and we'll probably do some improvements to that traffic signal. And we're currently working with Orange County to get that done. This is just another view of the park. Again, if you see here, highlighting with the walkways here, the benches, the picnic areas, we'll have barbecues back over here. And that'll go through a review process with Mike and Peter over the next couple, 3 months. We'll be providing a whole detailed set of drawings, what that will look like. When we come back with the PDP, FDP, we hope shortly, you'll all be able to see the exact plan. So it won't be a rendering like I'm showing you here, but actual, here's what it is, here's what we're doing. Again, another look at looking at the park again from another angle. And again, in all cases, what you'll see, and this was not framed this way to show a lot of sidewalks. No matter where you frame in our site, you'll see sidewalks. In 2020, see, and I apologize, I was telling Mike before, you know, when you do these things and you look at them the night before, this was actually done in 2017, not in 2107. And, but what we did go look at the master plan of the village character, and candidly, with the help of the staff, I think we've come up with a plan that really comes a long way to meeting the goals of that study. This is the elevations here of the townhouses. One of the things that Mike beat me up on a little bit was we came in and we're going to say, well, we're going to do a one-car garage, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and he said, well, not here. These are 4-unit, 6-unit townhouses. They will have 2-car garages. The other thing that I've done in most of my communities, I think Commissioner Keller, when you were on the commission, I brought Spring Lake through here. Yeah. And one of the things we did in Spring Lake, and I always like going back 5, 10 years later, looking at what we've done, was we added a lot of parallel parking. And you'll notice in the plan for the townhouses where we angle on the sides, and every place I can stick a couple parallel parking or perpendicular or angled parking, I don't care what, if it's a single family development. I did Oak Trail, you'll see a lot of that over there. We try to add somewhere between 1/4 to 1/2 a parking space per unit extra on top of the city's requirements. Because probably the biggest complaint I ever hear about a development I've done when I come back to it years later is there's not enough parking. And so in the townhouse site, we have provided, and we'll be showing that on the PDP, FDP, some significant parking in addition to the requirements. These have 2 full parking spaces in front and obviously the 2 spaces in the garage. This is the same rendering you've seen before, but again, pointing out the roundabout here at the south. We have an extensive amount of lake area here along the roadway to get our units away from the roads and to provide this is that linear park. You can see the walkway coming down, and there'll be benches all along here. So we think it'll create a really nice atmosphere for the people who live in the area, plus our residents. Another bird's eye view. Now we're looking over towards the city park, over the townhouses, and then you can see the lake. And again, you can see this walkway going down to the southern end of the project. View of the park again. I'm sorry. Let's see what we got here. This is the clubhouse, it's more of a cabana bath area. I'm sorry. One more time. This is the internal. There's the townhouses only. We do have a playground plan for here. If you'll notice, we put it into the square within the community itself. All of these units have walkable access between some of the buildings over here. There's actually a walkway, so everybody can get to this area very, very quickly. And we think that was another area that we spent some time on trying to get right. Now the rec area where the pool, the cabana bath. There's the playground. Again, pool and the cabana. This is the intersection which we really are happy with, and I'll apologize before. We have now added wall details here, which we have updated and will present next week, but this was earlier done. But this shows you coming in from the north end, and we're now looking here at, this is the gas station over here, and this is what we've done is, one of the conditions or one of the criteria in the program, we've pulled many of our buildings all the way to the front. So if you look all the way through here and all the way on this side, you don't see parking. The reason we added the wall in here is we wanted to go ahead and you need to have the gas up front and the parking. We put a wall there so you don't see the parking itself. You see the cars, you see the building, which we need for commercial uses, but we've shielded the actual parking from the people driving on Clark on Ocoee. And again, this is another closer view. And looking at our lake again. Now this is going back to what Peter was talking about. This is looking south. So this is our clubhouse. We have water all the way along 429. And this is sort of the roadway we're talking about coming in here with the buildings backing up to it. And you know, it was not my first choice. And after working with Peter, we came back. We went back and forth 6 or 7 designs. And we think this addresses it. My big issue being a developer is these units, we have 4 of our buildings facing the golf course, which we think from a renter's perspective, if you're living out there, you might as well take advantage of the views. So we'll increase the ad valorem tax. We're going to create a new exciting entrance to the city. We're going to facilitate the infrastructure along North Lakewood. And we believe that this is a foundation for a sustainable and a mixed-use community. And with that, any questions, any comments, and I know get the residents, and I'll come back and answer anything y'all want.
Any additional questions?
I do have a question about traffic impact fees, and I know you mentioned that you're not requesting them or requesting the use of them to help with transportation improvements, but is that a permanent thing, or is that, I mean, can you come back later if you...
Oh, you can always come back later. I mean, I've committed to Michael, and I can tell you, as he said, he was very staunch about it. You know, as Henry Ford would once say, you can have any color car you want as long as it's black. Michael's made it clear to me that, you know, this is your plan. You know, there will be tweaks to it. There'll be some minor changes to it. But if we start changing the substantial nature of it, the answer is no. And so he's made that clear. And as far as impact fee credits, he's also made it clear that, you know, I can ask all I want. I'm not going to, and I'm committed to that. And we will. One of the things I was noting as I was listening to the other presentation that I didn't do, but I will do for next week, is I am going to list the substantial. If you can imagine, with the density we're looking at, there will be very substantial park, school, police, fire, educational impact fees that will be paid on this project, and I'm going to identify those because they're going to be in the multi-million dollar range, and we think that's a benefit. We're not looking for any of that money back.
If you've seen the article in the news, Central Florida is lacking in multifamily developments, and we've had analysis show that there's plenty of room. You could have 9% growth for years and years and years. We don't want to be the central landing spot of all the apartments for Central Florida and West Orange County. We don't need to incentivize apartments. They bring us a quality restaurant user, there's some room to talk there. Some quality retail and restaurant, there's some room to talk.
Okay, and again, any questions later, I'll be here.
No, you answered it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Let's see. I think most of the stuff that I had asked was also answered, so I think we're good. Okay, so we got to open the public hearing, and I do have 2 people, I believe, that want to talk on this. First one is the gentleman I called up earlier for the wrong one there, Gene Laird. Gene, you had to leave? Okay. All right, so he didn't get to speak. And then, is it Lambrano? Hopefully I got it. I didn't mispronounce it too badly there. I just apologize. And again, just give your name and address for the record there. And
Yeah, so my name is Libardo Lambrano, and I live in, actually I don't live there yet, but I bought a property in 1703 North Lakewood, which is just at the bottom of that project. I don't know, that's south, or I don't know what is, if it's west, south, but it's at the bottom of that. So it's my first thing here, so bear with me. I don't know what I can ask, what I done, but I'm gonna say what I think. So first of all, I love the project. I think this area definitely needs something like this. It's an area with a great potential, and the reason I bought this property in North Lakewood is because they open a beautiful school. I don't know if you have seen it. Probably you are well aware of that, which is the Innovation Montessori Ocoee, which is a very innovative, sustainable school. I don't know, Montessori school is very expensive because most of the schools in the United States are private. This school is one of the 20 schools that is public and is providing very, very, very good quality education for kids. So my two kids, which is Enzo and Emily, they are 6-year-old and 3-year-old, they are enrolled in this school. And it's not because the school I bought the house, which is just in front of the school, it's also because I believe Ocoee is doing a great job as a city, and it's changing very drastically. So I've been following all the development for a while and all what the city has done. I don't know who is responsible for that, but whomever it is, you guys are doing a great job with that. So I'm seeing all the plan on the downtown, all the projects from the future. So I think I currently live in Windermere, but my goal in the future is to move to Ocoee because I think they are rethinking completely the city from scratch. And I think this is going to be the next Winter Garden, probably in the next 10 years. The project, everything that you said and you presented, I like it, except one little thing, which is the gas station. I hate it. And the reason is because, as I mentioned, the school, for instance, the Innovation Montessori Ocoee, which is just probably 3 blocks from this project, is fully solar powered. It doesn't have it's completely sustainable, and it's probably one of the schools in the area with most trees that I ever seen. It's beautiful. I mean, you should visit it before you put the gas station there. And people on that school, and I know because I've been in a lot of the meetings in that school, people have moved to this area because of that school. And it's very environmentally conscious parents with good income that also believe in the city on Ocoee. So the last thing that they want to see there is a gas station. And 10 years from now, when everybody's going electric, so what's the reason to put a outdated gas station that in 10 years nobody's gonna go there anyway? My next car is gonna be probably an electric car. All major brands are going to launch electric models this year. So I will probably rethink that and put something more interesting instead, that gas station that can attract maybe those people that are already moving for those reasons to this area, and it's the people that ultimately will change the whole area, because it's people that think I'm doing it not because of me. I won't be able to, or I won't be living here when all the change take place, but I think my kids will. So the only reason I was here was because I wanted to see it firsthand. I wanted to also thank you the people that are doing all these things for Ocoee, and that's it. I mean, I'm a believer. I like the project. The only thing I didn't like, to be honest, was the bank also either. I think, everybody's going mobile. I know this is a lot of institutionalized. When you create a project like this, you have already people that you deal with and you have the business with them before, and it's pretty hard to get it out. So I don't expect that because of me being here, things will change, but just keep in mind if it's possible. I would love to see something more interesting than a gas station, a bank there. Everything else, I love it, to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else who wants to speak on this issue that I don't have a form for yet? All right. Seeing none, what we will do is we will close the public hearing and bring it back up to the board. For this one, we need 2 motions, and so we don't need to annex. We do have, first motion we'll need is one for a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment. And then the second one will be for the actual rezoning. So can I get a motion on the large-scale comprehensive plan?
Mr. Chairman, I came into this item rather, looking on it rather askance, as probably you noticed. And I also noticed Commissioner Mellon caught the 5-story properties, which are now 4-story with elevators. From what I've heard, this seems to be a very intriguing initiative. And for this particular location, this will be an interesting thing. And Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the large-scale comprehensive plan amendment from low-density residential to high-density residential and commercial for the Ocoee Village Center Planned Unit Development. That is amendment CPA-2018-006.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so I have a motion by member Wunderlich. I have a second by member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? Okay. And can I have a motion now for the rezoning of the Ocoee Village Center to a PUD?
I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have the numbers.
Oh, there you
All right.
go. I'll give you that because that's got the number down there.
So, Mr. Chair, I will recommend approval of the rezoning of the Ocoee Village Center to PUD, project number RZ 180609.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second this one too.
All right, so we have a motion from Vice Chair Williams. We have a second from Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, it carries. And thank you. All right, and with that, we can sort of go back to the regular order here. So the next item will be the Phase 1, Lot 8 of Fountains West PUD, the Summit Self-Storage. And I do believe I have one speaker for that, too, so yeah. Okay.
So what happened, we are at the preliminary final cycle, okay. The subject property is not too far from where we just discussed. It's on the other side of the 429 and the terminus of Fountains West Boulevard. It is located adjacent to the public shopping center and adjacent to the Arbor's Apartments and sort of behind the new Wendy's, Taco Bell, and the charter school. This is, the subject property is Lot 8 of the Fountains West PUD. It received an amendment under the original PUD. There was a church owned the property, went in partnership with the retail grocery store builder. This came as one of the lots in the plan unit development. It had approvals for a church and ancillary religious uses. An amendment came in to change the uses within the PD to afford the opportunity for retail, a indoor self-storage facility, potentially institutional, such as a fire station or such. That revision to the plan unit development came through, and a subsequent, we have now the Phase 1 site plan for the indoor storage facility. This is Lot 8. Within this site plan, the storage facility will be built on the 11.73 acres. It's 3-story. And as well, they're doing some other further infrastructure, such as master stormwater ponds on site. They're creating a buildable pad for a Phase 2. They have the entrance road, 2 entrance ways, an internal drive for the indoor storage facility, and then within the parcel, the master stormwater pond for all future development. It's a 102,600 square foot, 3-story indoor storage facility with internal drive aisles, so you'll drive inside to load and unload your goods, or trash, or treasure, whatever you call it. Each story contains 34,200 square feet of space. Again, as I said, it's adjacent to apartments on the east. It'll be future institutional or retail use. This is retail. We anticipate also a daycare. I'm pretty sure daycare is going to come in and build on this pad. And again, master retention that can hold 70% of the impervious over the overall parcel. The building setback from the road a good distance. This is a preliminary final site plan, so from here they go to construction of the site for the storage facility, the internal drives, and the master stormwater pond. Landscaping plan you see, there's significant landscaping. There's the PUD, the Arbors Apartments provided traffic mitigation towards Fuller's Crossroad. That's that improvement that this past project spoke of. City of Ocoee and Orange County is improving Fuller's Crossroad at Ocoee Apopka. So that, again, for this project, when it came through, it did not impact Fuller's Crossroad. When you already designated an improvement, you can't make them come in and approve it also. Storage facilities generate really low traffic counts. This basic concept of what it's going to look like, it'll fit in with the character of the area. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board? Okay. This one, I didn't have any additional questions either, so the applicant, if you want to come on up and introduce yourself and name and address, and we'll add any additional information.
Hi, yes. For the record, I may be who filled out the
Yeah.
form. I am Ty Maxey with Summit Construction Management Group. We are the applicant. I know it's been a late night, so I'm certainly happy to answer any questions if you have. And we do appreciate Mr. Roomer and his staff's diligent work in helping us through this project.
Okay. All right. Any questions? I'm going to open the public hearing then. Anybody from the public have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back up to the board. Pleasure of the board. We have one motion on this one, just the recommendation or not on the approval of large-scale preliminary final site plan.
I guess it's my turn. I will recommend, or make a motion to recommend the approval of the Lot 8 Fountains West Pud large-scale preliminary final site plan, project number LS-2018-005.
All right, I have a motion. Can we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Member Mellon. We have a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None, so that passes. Thank you very much.
All right, the next item is related to this property, and it may be incorrect in your staff report, but the same subject property. The property has a mixed land use. Half the property has a light industrial. That's where the 3-story indoor storage facility is going. The other half has low-density residential. And so the proposal is to amend it's small-scale land use amendment, 5 acres, it's under 10. Amend the land use from low-density residential and light industrial to a commercial land use. This is to facilitate the daycare pad here. As part of their due diligence, they want a commercial land use to reflect the commercial use, so it's just a cleanup. When this PUD came through, at the time they knew they had the light industrial sitting where the 3-story indoor storage facility, so we didn't look at doing a land use amendment at that time, but due to one of the pads, that's the amendment, is to bring this area in and change it to commercial, which reflects the property to the west. So this is just a simple change in the map. recommend approval.
All right. So any questions from the dais? Okay, have none. What we'll do is we will open it up. This is a public hearing, so we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone have any questions?
Again, just for the record, representing the applicant, Ty Maxey with Summit Construction Management Group. Thank you.
Okay. With no other additional comments, we're going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the staff. Again, we only need one motion for this one. And can we get a motion on the approval of the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the small-scale land use amendment from the City of Ocoee low-density residential, City of Ocoee light industrial for Fountains West Commons planned unit development, and that's project CPA dash 2019-001.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's a commercial, correct? It's,
To commercial, yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's
Okay.
From
commercial.
low-density residential and
I'm
light
sorry, did
industrial
I-
to commercial.
It's
Okay.
just a misprint in the
Yes.
staff.
Okay, all right.
My apologies.
All righty, so do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Member Wunderlich, a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, after a brief introduction, I'm going to sit down for the next two. I would like to introduce first, the next planner coming up is Greg Hines. He is a Planner 1 with the City of Ocoee. He has his master's degree. He's getting his master's degree in urban and regional planning from UCF, and then also doing a dual master's degree in public administration. We stole him from the Department of Revenue. He's doing a great job. He's going to present these two annexation cases, as well as you've met Ginger before in two past meetings, and she presented for you. She's the Deputy Director of the Development Services and the Administrator of the CRA, as well as I have Keel Gandahar in the back. He is the zoning manager, newly appointed zoning manager for the City of Ocoee. You will be seeing more of Keel. One of his responsibilities is this board.
Okay.
And so you'll be hearing from Keel and our staff in the future. Just
All
wanted to
right,
welcome
so-
them and turn it over to
Yeah,
Greg.
well, welcome to new folks there. And before you start, Greg, I am going to ask one question. And this is more of a technicality question than anything else, because I don't want there to be a problem down the road. Right now, the way it is, we have the Homes of Partnership 330 13th Avenue coming first. We have 340 13th Avenue coming, 13th Avenue coming second.
Yeah,
Technically,
turn it around,
technically, do we need to do 340 first? Because, and the only reason I ask is because that one's the one that's actually contiguous.
Yes.
And 330 is not.
Yes. You'll see I corrected it on my, I didn't notice on the agenda, but in my PowerPoint, I put 340 first.
Okay, and
Yes.
and that was,
Yes.
that was my only question there. So, so we are going to do number G for those of you following along first, and then we'll come back to 330. All right, and with that, Mr. Hines, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so the first property that's attempted to annex into the city is 340 13th Avenue, and this is located a little bit west of Peter Avenue, which is right here. And it's next to this property here, which is already part of the City of Ocoee, so this is why this property is eligible to annex in. And they're annexing in as a condition to get water from the City of Ocoee. And the pipeline for the water actually runs here, so they are in connection with that. And this is a single-family home, and they're going to be changing the designation. Right now, it's R2, Orange County. When they annex into the city, it's going to be a R1 designation. And there's already a newly constructed single-family home on this property.
All right, any questions for Mr. Hines?
Any questions?
All right, seeing none, we will open the public hearing on 340 13th Avenue. Anyone want to speak? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais.
And so right here, oh, the next one.
All right. Yeah, and then for those of you who saw that and read just before we take the vote, that was why I wanted to do that one first, because that one's the actual contiguous one. And by approving this one, then 330 would be contiguous. So with that, we need a motion to approve for the,
Just two votes?
no, I'm sorry, yeah, this one is two motions. Yeah. Yep, sorry about that. Yes, there's two votes again, so, yeah. So I need a motion for the annexation. And then,
I'll make a motion to approve the annexation of the partnership property at 340 13th Avenue, project number AX-08-17-68.
all right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Member Mellon, a second by Member Wunderlich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes. And can we have a motion on the rezoning?
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend approval of the Homes and Partnership property located at 340 13th Avenue, rezoning number RZ 17-08-08.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Chair Williams. We have a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Carries. All right, and that moves us, Mr. Hines, to 330 13th Avenue. So we'll let you take it away.
So the next property is 330 13th Avenue, and this is directly west of the property, 340. And they'll be eligible to annex once this property become part of the city, because they'll be located next to that, and they're also connecting because of the border connection to the city, which is right here off of Peters Avenue. This is just here is a location map of showing it. This is the area view. I forgot to show it on the first one, but this is actually the area view, and it shows where the property is located. And this one also has a newly constructed home. So there's already a home on here. You can see on the map, this home is already built, but this one actually has a home too. So, and that would also be changing from an R2 zoning classification to the R1 for the city of Ocoee once they annex into the city. And this is just showing you the surrounding land use, and as you can see here, all of these are all zoned low density residential, so that would be keeping in line with the area. And then also here, this is just another one showing you the surrounding zoning, and as you can see here, it's the R1 designation, which this was also received that designation when they annex into the city.
All right. Again, any questions from? All right, seeing none, what we will do is we will open the public hearing. Seeing no one from public, we will close the public hearing and bring it back and ask for the pleasure of the board on, again, two motions, one for annexation and the second one for rezoning.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the local planning agency, recommend approval of the annexation of the property known as Homes in Partnership located at 330 13th Avenue, and that's annexation AX-08-17-67.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion by Member Wunderlich. We have a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty.
Staff needs to show up on time tomorrow.
Oh, sorry, rezoning, sorry about that. Almost getting late. I'm losing it here. Okay, then we need one more motion for the rezoning of.
So, Mr. Chair, I ask that we recommend approval. I move that we recommend approval for Homes and Partnership property located at 330 13th Avenue, rezoning number RZ 17-08-07.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion by Vice Chair Williams. We have a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries? Okay. So we move those on to the board. Okay, thank you. All right, and that leaves us miscellaneous there. We have the project status reports.
I would just
don't know,
like to
did you want
ask
speak on that?
Member Wunderlich if he likes the new project map. We took his comments into account.
That was just a wonderful addition.
Yeah,
Thank
there
you
there
so
are,
much.
yeah, there are a
Yes,
couple
yes,
of corrections that probably need to be made to, because I noticed like a couple of Mr. Firster's, Commissioner Firster's landed up in District 4.
Yes, and he is,
And
okay.
I think there was a couple, but overall, I do like it. It's really good.
We have an address, we put it, we separated by districts, so you
Yeah,
can
so,
thumb to the good parts.
Yeah, so
Um,
I do like that.
We'll have a meeting in May. I'm gonna try not to have a meeting in June, unless one's necessitated. I don't foresee any projects being ready to go, just an FYI. And I know we asked you guys before, but we do have a budget for planning and zoning shirts, polos or long sleeve shirts.
Yeah, I'm thinking I lost enough weight with everything that I may need to trouble you for another shirt.
We'll send you an email with a catalog of what selections you can make, and feel free to,
I think he's trying to tell us we all need to match.
Yeah, I think
no,
so,
not at
yeah.
all, not at all. If you're not gonna use it, I'm gonna use that budget somewhere else. I'm just kidding.
So I do appreciate it. But, okay, so the only other business is, need a motion to adjourn?
Well, Mr. Chair, before we do, just for the record,
Oh,
just,
okay.
I just wanted to clarify something that I spoke to you about. I left my packet at my office, and so I've been using my phone. I just wanted to make it clear that I was using it to view the documents and not anything inappropriate.
Now, that is the one beauty. We do get all of this as an email, so, or from our Dropbox, so we do have.
718 pages.
Yeah, access to it online, so. All right.
Mr. Rumor, the May meeting would be on the second Tuesday, the 14th?
Yes,
Thank you.
regular scheduled.
All right, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes, sir.
All those in, we have a motion by Vice Chair Williams and second by Member Mellon to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. All right. Thank you very much for all of your work. This one was a rather long one. Yep. Okay.
I took notes on comments. Do you want to just leave this so I will make sure I was pulling them? Do you want to?
Thank you.